have the honor of Billy Carson. I could be sitting here forever reading off your credentials, biohack, forbidden knowledge. You got your own streaming. You got 10,000 degrees, certifications from MIT, Harvard. Just an honor to be across from you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I'm glad we were able to make this happen. I'm looking forward to this.
Real quick, because there's too much to get into.
Yeah.
What initially sparked your interest in the universe, metaphysics, all this stuff?
Well, to be honest with you, back in 1977, we moved down to Miami, Florida, close to the Opa-locka Airport. I was out in my backyard. This is before, TV, before cable TV. We only had 4 channels on regular TV, which barely came in with the foil on the antenna, right? So there was no influence there, no time to watch TV, no video games, no page or cell phones, just playing outside near this airport, watching the airplanes go over my head, and realized that this object came over and it cleared the horizon in seconds, not minutes. And that's when it got my attention, because I knew from my perspective on the ground, even at the age of 7, that these airplanes appear to be moving slow, but they're probably moving fast to stay up in the air. Then no wings, no tail fin, no cockpit. And I was like, what did I just see? And then it came back and it stopped. Now this time it was much lower, probably now I can estimate maybe about 200 meters above me, completely silent. And then it just went and went out the way it came in, and that was it. And I ran around the backyard. I ran in the house. I was screaming to my mom and everything else. And she was like, yeah, advanced beings visit this planet all the time. And I went then to the library at my elementary school the next day, and I got all the Encyclopedia Britannicas down on aerospace tech. I studied ballistic. I studied delta wing, swept wing. I studied rocketry. I just kept going deeper and deeper into the aerospace, trying to find what I saw. I never found it. But that took me down a rabbit hole of discovery into, top secret projects and released black budget projects that have been released to the general population, like the SR-71 Blackbird and all these other things. And I got so entrenched in it, I kind of became a quasi-aerospace historian, and that led me down that path. Later on, much later, I started developing a passion for ancient civilizations, and I wanted to go visit one. So when I became 26, I finally got to travel to Mexico. I went to Chichen Itza, down into the Yucatan Peninsula, and climbed the pyramid, which you can't even climb anymore. And about 2010, much later, I had another experience. And that experience led me into finding out about ancient civilizations, because it took me to this website called worldwidetelescope.org. After I had this experience, which was kind of a close encounter of the fourth kind, this word, Worldwide Telescope, kept burning in my head over and over and over again. So I went on excite.com, because back then Google wasn't the big dog yet, and I typed in Worldwide Telescope, and the website, the first result was worldwidetelescope.org. I almost fell out of my chair. It was an app. It was actually a downloadable software program. Now you can actually download it as a program or run it as HTML5. I installed it, I played it, and the first thing that popped up was Mars and all the other space probe data that we had ever gone out and gotten in space in our solar system. I accessed the Mars data, and then it said panoramas. I said, panoramas. I clicked on panoramas, and then next thing you know, I'm on the Opportunity rover platform, and I can see through the eyes of the Opportunity rover, and I'm able to pan left and right and zoom in and zoom out, and I start seeing anomalies, things that don't appear like they should be in that location, but they look like remnants of ancient civilizations that I had just been studying on Earth. And I'm like, wait a minute, this stonework looks like this stonework. And so I started making the connection between the two, and that took me deeper into ancient civilizations to a level to where I am now. I mean, that just took me all the way down the rabbit hole. And I started realizing that there was a culture that was an interplanetary civilization that ran concurrently on multiple planets and moons in this solar system.
Yeah, there had to be. Why do you think we don't search the ocean more?
I think they probably could be searching the ocean from space, utilizing different types of satellite, penetrating radar technologies that we don't know about. I'm talking about they, meaning the military-industrial complex.
Right.
So they can scan and figure out where all these ancient civilizations are located and keep them top secret for themselves, because they want to be able to get access to some of the remnant technology that may have been left over from ancient cultures. But then the budgets for just the general population to run these types of things is just so costly. I remember the crew from the Baltic Sea anomaly. They were looking for that. Well, they came across that anomaly in the Baltic Sea. They wanted to go back. It took them like 2.5 years, I think, to raise the money just to go back and take a better look. So these things are really, really expensive to do. Exploring the ocean is extremely dangerous and expensive, and I think a lot of people just don't have the wherewithal to raise the money for it.
Isn't that insane? They know that there's a lot of history down there, probably parts of things and everything, but yet they don't want to put budget into it, and it could change the world.
Yeah, I know.
Most likely because they don't want the world to change because they're making too much money on what they have. But that's just, and, you know, your award that's coming up and everything for being, I think where this civilization went wrong, and I think you'll agree, is we're so worried, like we were talking about your cool shoes they had on the thing, you know, but, you know, whatever. Right. But we went down the materialistic route.
Right.
Like, I have this, you have that ego, where the civilizations that we know of, and you know of way more, they weren't so worried about that. It was more within, you know, the grass, you know, the nature.
Nature, being one with nature.
Being one with nature.
Yeah.
And here we're just worried about stupid things that mean nothing.
Yep.
And to not dig into the ocean is wild.
It's wild. But you can imagine that if they can get access to this stuff first and then act like there's nothing there, they can find technology or remnants of technology that they can then reproduce, that they can reverse engineer, and then drip drop out to culture to generate trillions in profits over many decades.
Greed.
Yes, greed.
Now, the UFO thing that we're seeing now all the time. Now, I've watched you before you came on and even before I thought about this, but I go back and forth because I want it to be here so bad. You know, I got to lie here and everything, you know what I mean? But I can't imagine that they're coming here in a UFO.
Yeah.
What I think, and then you tell me, please tell me I'm wrong. I don't think they're coming here in a UFO. I think what we're seeing is probably, if anything, is something they found from ancient civilization, like a piece, a part of whatever, and they were able to reverse engineer it to a point. And that's what we're seeing in the sky. Because I would think if you're from another planet, you're going to come here in a craft. If you can already come this far, when you come here as an avatar, where almost like you could be an alien, but you wouldn't even know you're an alien.
Right.
You know, they bring kind of like a brainwash thing, like they do with terrorists and so on.
Right, right.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that you're right. I think there's a couple different ways that being could travel through space and time. One way would be the method that you're talking about. I mean, you can literally transmit yourself to another planet, right? You can transmit consciousness. If you can pre-send out a device that can capture it, you know, so this device goes out decades ahead of time or how many years they need. And then once it gets to the location where it's at, then they can transmit consciousness to that, and they can inhabit an avatar that can then come down to the ground and walk around, look around, experiment, do everything it needs to do. And then it can go back up to the satellite that's cloaked somewhere, and then it can transmit all that data in itself right back as a stream of a beam of light, right? So in that type of long distance teleportation, if you will, I think another method would be some cultures may not have gotten to that level of advancement, or their technological concepts didn't go that route. They went a different route, went more the physical route. So maybe they do have these types of ships that they travel in, but maybe they have the capability of warp. So right now we've been testing warp bubbles inside of laboratories and successfully created a warp bubble just like on Star Trek. Yeah. This was about maybe 6 years ago, I believe. So NASA has a ship called the NSX or the NSX or NSNX, one of those variations. But they've been working on this for about 15 years. And this is the warp ship that they're going to utilize to travel faster than light or a decent percentage of the speed of light without violating Albert Einstein's theory of relativity. Because in a warp bubble, what happens is you don't fly through space. You shrink space in front of the ship and you expand it from the back. So space moves the ship. So by that method, you can travel multiples of light speed without violating the theory of relativity because you're not actually traveling at light speed. Space is moving.
Space is moving.
Right.
Because it never begins. It's always moving and expanding.
Exactly. It's moving and expanding. And it's like if you put a plate on the center of a table and then you pull the tablecloth. That plate's moving, but it's really the tablecloth that's moving. And that's the method you use in a warp. The other thing that we have now is something called an EM drive, electromagnetic drive, where it literally doesn't use any type of propulsion fuel at all, but it can accelerate to a percentage of the speed of light because it actually bounces microwaves around inside of a cone and the speed just continuously keeps increasing because space is a vacuum and there's no friction. And with that method, they estimate you can get from Earth to Mars probably in about 2 weeks.
Wow.
When it's in perigee. And China has just tested the first EM drive about 2 years ago in space. So we know that works as well. And now America has one as well. So there's various different ways and techniques to travel through space, and we're finding out new ways all the time. And so I think that we could be getting visitations from people beaming themselves here, avatars, right? People who only sent probes and satellites, like maybe the Black Knight satellite, which I did a documentary on, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then,
That's
of
very
course,
good, by the way.
Oh, thank you. And then, of course, then potentially maybe even physical craft, even multidimensionals could be coming here. They may have isolated the subatomic frequency of our dimension of this universe, even, and then they maybe have a technology to allow them to walk from their universe directly into ours, or maybe walk from a higher dimension into the third dimension and be right where we are. And then that would be potentially with an avatar body again. So there's so many possibilities, and theoretically they could all be happening at once.
Do you think, I always wonder this, do you think, I look at, and this may be crazy, but I look at like autistic kids, right? Or autistic adults even, right? They have a different brain capacity. They just think differently. They're analyzing stuff before, like, it's crazy, right?
Yeah.
I always, people will be probably like, oh, it's a terrible thing to say, but I always feel like almost like our autistic, like are aliens among us. Like I feel like there's something there, some connection with some outer hemisphere. Do you think that's at all possible that there's aliens among us, I guess, living in our society, or no?
I think it's 1,000% possible. I think it's definitely happening right now as we speak. And that there is an alien gene or alien genes in the human genome, in the Homo sapiens sapien genome. And so you have these situations where you find these savants, these functioning savants, and these autistic people and stuff like that develop, but it's tapping into ancient genes. And the avatar body we have now, this Homo sapiens sapien, has a problem balancing sometimes. And so you find these disparities between how they can handle basic logic versus how much their brain can really handle in different things like artistic, music, numbers, and memory. And some of these people have enormous memories. They can remember everything they've ever seen, touched, smelled, heard, read. I remember Kim Peek remembered, thousands and thousands of phone books, and you can just ask him a question about a person's name, and he'll tell you the name, the phone number, the street address, and everything. So it's possible. But I do know that a former military, actually NATO officer, I forget his name at this exact moment. He passed away recently, but he actually came out and talked about the fact that he was cosmic top secret clearance. Not only was he cosmic top secret, but he read the documents that showed that we were being visited. I think he said up to 6 different species. Some of them look just like us. Not all of them, but some of them look just like us. He said his exact quote was, they could sit next to you in a theater, on a plane, and you wouldn't even know the difference.
And the question is, do they even know the difference?
Right.
Because it's like a terrorist type of thing. If they're born and that's their way to do it, I just don't. 2 things, and I'll get off the UFO thing. I'm just into it. I can't imagine that a UFO came here, and even though they have top secret, not one person has a piece. I know Greer, he was in, but not one person has a physical piece. Yeah. I find that hard to believe. But if you can bend time, if you can get here from a planet that we can't see or that we know is far away, that means you have super advanced technology, right? You've probably been here forever, way longer than what they tell us. Why would you even bother with a craft that could get crushed or whatever? You would just shoot a beam and you would be here, like Elon Musk, for example. How does that guy do tunnels, Neuralink, even though I think he did a dirty move with Twitter. And Malone thinks he's using Twitter as a weapon, which he told me 2 years ago, and it seems to be right. But that guy's doing 5, 6 monster things at once. Now, how can one person do that? Even you.
He's got significant insight. I mean, sometimes people can accomplish incredible things when you generate enough revenue. It takes money to make money, but also takes money to grow your ideas and your imagination. And he was able to crack that first nut. I think it was X.com, which became PayPal, and he cashed out from PayPal.
But he wish he didn't do that.
Right, yeah. And then, but that gave him that initial that he needed to come up with all these, to not really come up. He already had the imagination, but to monetize his imagination and build his, his empire. And I think that a lot of us have this great imagination. I don't think money comes from working. Money comes from your imagination. Sometimes you need something to kickstart the process of actually manifesting that imagination. And unfortunately, a lot of the times, because we live in a capitalistic society, that's money. And I think he's been able to do that. But he could have, you never know, he could be having some help from above, or he could, or he could be himself somebody from above. We just never know. There's so many incredible things that happen that we're shielded from because of the way we're programmed to believe how life should be and how life actually goes versus, the true diversity that exists in this universe. And, even things like looking at Yeshua from the biblical text, aka Jesus, and you find out that he was a virgin birth. The typical person will say, oh, this is a miracle of God. I see in vitro fertilization. His grandmother was also a virgin birth when you read the Apocrypha text. I see in vitro fertilization. I see somebody doing genetic tinkering to establish a specific bloodline versus the average person who's born today will see the miracle from God and that this person was blessed and they put the seed in the womb and it's all magic. A magic wand made this baby appear. I mean, I don't see the fairy tale.
Apple.
Right. And they ate apple.
That one kills me.
They ate the apple and that's why women's labors are hard. That's crazy. I see science versus the average person. 90% of the people are going to see this fairy tale. So there's so much going on out here. It's just like, you can almost say that everything is happening all at once, all possibilities.
What blows my mind with Elon, being that he's got the most satellites up there, right?
Oh, yeah.
When you ask him, now he could be paid off, who the hell knows, for funding, but when you ask him, do you think that craft has come here? No. I see no evidence of any type of extraterrestrial life, blah, 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 blah. You got the most satellites up there. You're not seeing anything?
I don't believe him.
I don't believe him either.
I don't believe him. I mean, NASA, when they used to have the live feed, recorded dozens and dozens of anomalies in space right here in Earth orbit. So the fact that he says that, I don't believe it. Also, the fact that he's using liquid propellant rockets to travel around in space is really like archaic. A lot of people see like it's really amazing what he's doing. At the same time, I kind of like, that's really old school. Like that's like, that's like almost before the combustion engine, like, Fred Flintstone level. When you're talking about space travel.
I was going to ask, wouldn't that blow up eventually?
That stuff is too dangerous. When you look at the amount of things that have to happen for a person to successfully get to Mars on his system, you got to launch a pre-launch, right? And that launch has to then take a payload to Mars. And when it gets there, it has to drop off a satellite. Then that satellite's got to drop something that lands on the surface. And that thing on the surface has to open up and do its thing and create these tents and whatever. Yeah. And then a person from here has to then now fly up into space and sync up with this thing that's hovering and orbiting and waiting for it to take the module all the way there. Then when it gets there, it's got to dock with the other ship. And then when it docks with the other ship, then it's got to release your capsule. Then you got to descend to the surface. I mean, come on. This is too many steps. Are you kidding me?
Too many steps, too much funding, and then hope that nothing goes wrong.
Listen to me.
One thing. What was it? You were saying on the thing that I was up till 4 o'clock watching. Yeah. If you don't break, 32 or 33, you're not getting out of the atmosphere.
33 times the speed of sound.
This episode is brought to you by Let's Get Checked. Are you the man your father was? Recent studies have shown that men's testosterone levels have dropped substantially since the 1980s at about an average of 1% per year. Think about how old your father was when he was born. For example, if he was 30, your testosterone levels could be 30% lower than his. Low testosterone levels can have all type of health effects on men. It can affect your mood, sex drive, memory, muscle mass loss, you name it. And yes, low testosterone is more common the older you get, but it can affect men at any age. So let's talk about today's sponsor, Let's Get Checked. You can order a testing kit that will be delivered to you in a discreet packaging with next-day delivery. Once your sample arrives in the laboratory, confidential results will be available from your secure online account within 2 to 5 days. So, if you want to test your hormone levels without having to leave your home, visit trylgc.com/MSCS Media and get 25% off your test using the code MSCS Media. The link is in the description at the top. This episode is sponsored by ZBiotics. What is ZBiotics Pre-Alcohol Probiotic? The ZBiotics Pre-Alcohol Probiotic is a genetically engineered probiotic you drink before drinking alcohol to avoid that rough next morning and get back to living your life. PhD scientists invented it because they know the real problem is not dehydration. It's a toxic byproduct of alcohol, and ZBiotics Pre-Alcohol Probiotic is the only product that breaks it down. Just remember to drink responsibly and plenty of rest too. Every time I have Z-Biotics before drinking, I'm amazed at how good I feel the next day. Z-Biotics is a must-have for me because it means I'm still going to make my daily workout even if I have a few drinks the night before. That's important to me. You can get Z-Biotics for 15% off your first order using my code MSCS Media at checkout. I recommend getting the 6-pack. That's what I got. It's a great deal. You have a couple extra to share with friends. Go to zbiotics.com/MSCS Media. That's Z as in zebra, biotics, BIOTICS.com/MSCS Media, or scan the QR code on the screen right now and get 15% off your first order.
From Earth's atmosphere, you're not going to break, you're not going to get through. You have to, when you get to max Q, if you're not at 33 times the speed of sound, you're going to curve right back down towards the ground. And so, it's pretty interesting. So I just think that he knows what's going on Mars. He knows about all the Mars anomalies. I've documented thousands of anomalies myself. My team has documented over 60,000 anomalies on Mars. He knows what's up there. The reason why it's a one-way trip is because these billionaires are not going to leave the creature comforts of Earth, traveling the world, seeing beautiful places, hopping on yachts and private jets to go live in a cold, dry rock inside of a tin can until they die. There's an infrastructure already being set up, already being built. Yes, they will come from behind the rock or come from the underground base and they'll wave at the cameras, and then they're going to go back down to a lap of luxury, which has already been worked on now for decades. And I think that he knows that, my personal opinion.
And I want to pull up the Great Pyramid and then give your background, and then we'll get into some really crazy stuff.
Yeah.
The stone pads, which, can you pull up pick one? Can you break this down?
Yeah.
And listen, again, everybody's got to watch this.
Yeah.
When it's on YouTube, I'll have the link in the description. Mr. Carson, you break this down in 1 hour. Like I've never seen it, and you can understand it.
This is what you're talking to me on the drive.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
Yeah.
I gotta hear this. Yeah.
Yeah, this is, so I'm standing here at the Great Pyramid of Giza. I'm probably about, I don't know, maybe 15 meters up, standing on top of some of the stones there. And so, one incredible thing about this structure, it's 2 million stones, 2 million blocks. And because of the weight, the sheer mass of the blocks, it creates a time bubble, a time dilation bubble around itself. So I'm standing there, and anyone standing more than 100 to 200 yards away, they experience time at a different rate than I was. So people don't know that. When you travel to the Great Pyramid and you stand right up next to it, time slows down for you. Okay.
Wow.
By a measurable amount, which is pretty interesting.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting stuff. So it's almost like a little bit of a time dilation bubble that forms around the structure.
Excuse me if this sounds complete moron, but how do you know that the time slows down?
Well, you can do it with atomic clocks. So
Holy
they've
shit.
taken atomic clocks, and you can have one atomic clock a mile away, and you can have one atomic clock local to you where you are standing next to the Great Pyramid, and then atomic clocks just don't lie. You can find out the differential between the time differences. And they've done this with rockets going into space, like on the Apollo missions. They've measured the distance as the rocket speeds away from Earth, going towards its target, and people standing local on the planet Earth, again, the people in the rocket experience time at a different rate, at a slower rate. So the astronauts came back slightly bit younger than us on Earth.
You would think that would be on in a good society.
Yeah.
What you say here would be on every news station in the planet.
I
That
know.
the times change. That's
Yeah.
like huge.
Massive, yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No,
I
it's
was
okay.
just like, well,
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't catch that last
Yeah.
time.
That's
I don't know why people don't talk about this stuff more,
No, so we're going to get it out. And thank you again.
But you can see here I'm talking about the mean distance to the sun. So if you take half of the length of the diagonal of the base times 10 to the 6th power, you're going to get the average distance to the sun from Earth. So, I mean, these kind of calculations, if you see one or two, you say, oh, this is kind of a coincidence.
Right.
But this is a short note right here. I've found now hundreds of these calculations built into the Great Pyramid. The Great Pyramid is a multifunctional stone computer, and it's also a time capsule of incredible mathematical knowledge about our entire universe, not just this galaxy, like I initially thought, but the universe itself. But you can also get the mean distance to the sun. The height of the pyramid times 10 to the 9th power represents the mean radius of the Earth's orbit around the sun. And the AU, which is the astronomical unit, which is what we use when we measure distances in space. We use the AU. We say, okay, the distance from Earth to the sun is 1 AU. So we measure things as far as AUs now. So like Pluto will be X amount of AUs and so forth and so on. And so it's pretty interesting that you can get this calculation, and I put the math up there so people could do it for themselves. Like, hey, you can really get these calculations.
This is fact.
These are facts.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is not a coincidence. The mean distance to the moon. So you take the length of the Jubilee passage times 7 times 10 to the 7th power, and you're going to get the mean distance to the moon. So you can get that exact specific distance. I mean, if you look at the way the pyramid inches break down, it still breaks down to the same, 238,865 miles to the moon. And the sun's radius can be calculated by the Great Pyramid measurements as well. So you take twice the perimeter of the bottom of the granite coffer times 10 to the 8th power, and you're going to get the sun's radius. I mean, this is incredible. I mean, these are not coincidences. 427,316 miles can be calculated from this simple mathematical process. And then you can get the Earth's polar radius. In other words, the polar radius is the distance from pole to pole, right?
From pole to pole, north to south pole.
Yeah, north to south pole.
Yeah.
Right, this way. And so you take the sacred cubit times 10 to the 7th power, you're going to get the polar radius of the Earth. Now, what's interesting about this, in order to know what the polar radius is, then to build it into the structure, you need a satellite.
Yeah.
You need a satellite that's in a polar orbit, and it scans the planet as it spins on its axis, and it scans the planet in swaths, and it takes that data, and then it can make the calculation, and then this is the answer. Now only build it into the structure. So this is master brick masonry. These are the original super brick masons, and this is like an architectural masterpiece that you have here. And, of course, you see the last one here, Earth's polar radius is another way you can do it. The pyramid embodies a scale ratio of 1 by 43,200. And what this means, by the way, is so if you take the Great Pyramid and scale it up 43,200 times, it fits directly inside the Earth. And all the points perfectly touch.
Now, look, you have Harvard, MIT. Yeah. So somebody can call you a tin hat.
Right.
Right there is the math.
This math.
That's why I thought this was so important to pull up.
Yeah.
Do you see this, Ron?
There's something really interesting also. The Great Pyramid is located at the center of the landmass on Earth. Not the center of the Earth, but the center of landmass. Again, you need a polar orbiting satellite, and as the Earth spins on its axis, you're scanning swaths of data, and then you have to stitch that data together. You have to use telemetry and topography to be able to scan the planet to find out all the land masses. And then you can say, okay, let's pinpoint now. This is the direct center of landmass. We're going to put the pyramid right there. That's incredible. So that's really incredible.
With all that being said, and I suck in math, I'm like, wow, I would have failed this test.
That's what I said.
I would have failed this test.
Forget it.
So how do you describe, how did this happen? Did this happen?
Both the Atlantean priest king, ruler over the land of Kemet before it was called Egypt for 16,000 years, and his emerald tablets of Thoth, which date back over 36,000 years old, he claims to have built the Great Pyramid. He says, "Builded I the Great Pyramid, patterned after Earth's force, so that it too might remain through the ages." That's his exact quote in his tablets. And in this, you find out that he's the master architect for the pyramids on Earth. He takes a crew with him to Kemet to rebuild Kemet. Rebuild. It was already built at one point, but a flood had come and washed over the land, according to these tablets. We all know the Great Flood story, right? Yeah. It's true. It happened way farther back than it's stated in the Bible. The Bible is talking about a flood that is, according to them, less than 6,000 years old. No, this is a super ancient flood. This is super antiquity, like deep antiquity, And so what's amazing is this crew, once they rebuild Atlantis at the land of Kim, he says to them, go travel around the world and duplicate what we did here. So that's why you see the same type of structures, the same megalithic style and technique all over the planet.
Like Mexico, Chile,
right.
There's a bunch of
Peru,
them. Right?
Bolivia. They even went to China. There's the pyramids in China, alignment with Orion and everything else. And so this is how it happened. Also, how do we get different races of people on the planet?
Yeah,
the same people that he took with him were multiracial people from different star systems and different planets that went with him to rebuild the land of Kim. These people were not all the same race. I keep trying to tell people it wasn't just all black people, it wasn't just all white people. It was a mixed race of people. These aliens were mixed. And when they went around the planet to re-kickstart civilization, whatever groups of humans they were ruling over, they genetically branded them. Just like you would brand a cow. So you see that cow with that brand, oh, that's Farmer Jack's cow, don't touch that cow. Well, people were branded. This is why. So I said, you know what? This is interesting. Let me look deeper into genetic coding for different races, and I found out that peer-reviewed science that we have a 2% variance in our genes. So my family, my ancestors are not dark skinned because they were working in the sun. That's a farce. It's absolute garbage. It's a foolishness. You're not your color because your ancestors were working in the mountains. I mean, it's just ridiculous stuff. There's a 2% variance in genes that makes a complete separation between races. And so they figured out that this was an artificial mutation that happened around 200,000 years ago, right when the Sumerian tablets talk about the fact that races were split apart and changed. So it matches the ancient culture's record of a genetic mutation of some type, and that 2% variance was because it's a genetic marker. And it's talked about in the Bible as well. When you look at Cain, who killed Abel and was kicked out of the garden, he was like, the people out there are going to kill me. First of all, there shouldn't be any people out there because it's only supposed to be Adam and Eve, Cain and Abel. Where'd these other people come from?
Well, whoever wrote the best one got
Yeah.
laid the most. Honestly,
So it's interesting but the Sumerian tablets tell you where the people came from. They had created these people through genetic cloning. But he was afraid that they would kill him. Well, what did God say in the Bible? He said, I'm going to put my mark on you, and they'll know that you're mine. So he put a genetic mark on him so that when he left out of there, they knew that this guy was part of this Canaan group. These are going to be the Canaanites. Don't touch them. That's Enlil's people, because that's who actually Yahweh is in the Bible. So there's this genetic tinkering that goes on. Okay, so somebody in Asia, they looked Asian. They ruled over these people. They gave them the genetic marker. Caucasus Mountain, they gave them the genetic marker. Caucasian. Africa, they gave them the genetic marker. And that's why there's this variation of races around the planet. It's not because of how ancestors worked or didn't work in the sun. It's because of genetic tinkering that we're all different races.
I never believed that either. And I'm gonna make a simple comment, and you tell me what you think. So, like I used to play basketball. And, black people could always jump faster. And I'd always hear, you see Jordan,
Yeah.
But there's part of the ankle that some African American, the bone structure is different. So that would be genetic tinkering, right? Not necessarily like
genetic tinkering, breeding. So, you look at a lot of different variations that, for one, you look at the fact that when you always keep mating the strong with the strong, strong with the strong, strong with the strong over and over again, all of a sudden you create a super race in terms of athleticism. And that's what happened, actually.
And then you would need that to civilize the planet.
Yeah.
And then what I've noticed, and this is not, I'm friends with them all. If you take like a Mexican or a Spanish person, they naturally work their ass off. I could put 20 white people in here. I'm in town. I could put 20 white people in here versus 20 Spanish, and they're going to get that job done way better and way quicker than the 20 white people, black people, whoever you may be. So when we that's like simple terms, but when we put that into this, this would be coincide with what you're saying.
Yeah.
A little bit of this, a little bit of that, boom.
Yeah.
And that's how you build.
Yeah, that's how you build. That's how you build a planet. They were making this earth a breakaway civilization for themselves. And they actually thought that what they were doing was wrong, because in these tablets, in the Sumerian tablets, they say that what we've done here, kind of is a travesty, and we're going to have to answer to the creator of all. So they even knew there was something above them. They knew they weren't gods. They masqueraded as gods, and they got the people to do the labor and the work for them while doing that, and got them to think that they were gods. So they would pray to them, and they would do the labor as an honor, but they didn't realize they were even slaves. The best kind of slave is a slave that doesn't know it's a slave. So all human beings were slaves, every single race. And so people have to understand that we came from a long way. It wasn't just one, it was everybody. And then they taught us to enslave each other, which is crazy. So it's just part of this whole thing that needs to be exposed. Like, we have to learn from this stuff in the past. That's why I talk about this. Like, we need to learn from this so we can build a better future and realize where we need to go. And the Great Pyramid is an incredible time capsule of information that will lead us to a lot of truths, It's a stone computer. If you take all the pyramids at Giza and the temples that are surrounding the area, and you connect them with these circles, concentric circles, and then you take a star map of the inner planetary solar system from NASA and overlay it on it, it matches down to the AU.
That's wild.
You get the sun in the center, which is the Great Pyramid. Then you get Venus, Mercury, Venus, Earth, and then you get Mars and it matches down to the astronomical unit.
Exactly. Right?
How do you do that? What kind of coincidence is this?
That'd be a hell of a coincidence, man.
I mean, just for the pic that we pulled up,
Yeah.
like you said, okay, you get lucky with one, it's to
Right.
the north.
Yeah.
You know, you get lucky, it's toward the moon.
Yeah.
But when it's the exact to the moon, the sun,
Yeah.
the size of the Earth to fit in when you calculate it.
Right.
That
And that was just a small clip. I mean, you
Yeah.
can actually even calculate the speed of the Earth around the sun from the pyramid. You can even take the pyramid measurements and calculate the speed of the sun around the galactic equator, around the supermassive black hole at the equator of our galaxy. Then you can even calculate the speed of the Milky Way galaxy amongst the local cluster of galaxies through the universe, all from the Great Pyramid. And I've done all the math. It's all good math.
Yeah, and you show all the math.
Yeah.
And we'll have all the links, and we're going to pull some more stuff up. And when you talk about the tablet, you know, just pretend it's a iPad.
Mm-hmm.
And from reading your stuff and watching you, it was more, I write down this, and you even say it, not just in the one I watched, another one that I watched, that they weren't just, you know, texting like we do today. They were putting the important stuff to then pass it on to you and the next, you know, evolution of people.
Yeah.
And then you can translate this.
Yeah.
You showed you could translate it all.
Right.
And what is there, 8 of them, 7 of them?
The 7 tablets of creation, the Enuma Elish, that's just the beginning. We found now over 1 million tablets. Over 1 million.
You better get that Neuralink chip for that.
Well, they just created an AI that can decipher the tablets now.
Oh, wow.
Plus, UCLA has a new program. It's not new, but it's been up for maybe 4.5 years. You can go to the UCLA CDLI Online Cuneiform Digital Library, and you can drop tablets into the virtual library, and it will translate them for you right there as well. Probably close to maybe, I don't know, 30, 40,000. So, but this new software, this new AI software that's now going to go through millions of tablets and translate them. It's going to be incredible.
Now, why don't they ever talk about that? Even the professors, the astrophysicists, I gave you the names before we started.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't they ever bring that up? Isn't that tablet the most important of all this? It tells everything.
Everything. And it matches with real science. I don't know why they don't bring it up. Maybe they just, haven't taken the energy or the time to dig deep into it to verify the validity of the information and match it with their science knowledge that they have now. Some people are just trained classical science and physics, and this is where they're going to stay in that little, their own lane, and they don't feel like they want to, divert into another lane. But you have to make the connection, because the connection is so incredible. We have to get this information out to the people.
But Mr. Carson, is it that, or is it because they don't want to go against the grain, or they maybe have published something and they don't want to go against that, which to me would be a disgrace to humanity?
It's possible. I mean, there's only one real super archaeologist / professor that I know that has gone completely against the grain and risked his entire career. That's Robert Schoch.
Yeah.
And Robert Schoch has gone against the grain with the timelines and the periods and the different types of extinction level events and where and how they happened. And he really risked his whole career. He's one of the very few, though. I mean, the majority of people, they don't go against that
Well,
grain.
look what they did with him. They called him a wacko.
I know.
A tin hat wacko.
Tin hat. They
even though he had the numbers.
He had all the numbers, and he's a real geologist. I mean, the guy's a scientist.
It doesn't,
They taught him, and he took what they taught him, and he said, "Hey, this is what you guys taught me something, and I'm going to show you that what you're saying, this information is whatever you want everybody to know is wrong, because based on what you taught me, it can't be this." And they shunned him.
This is why I'm so excited to have you in, because I don't understand. Like I've had guys, Harvard, you name it, right across from me. And why in the hell wouldn't you mention everything? I would say, how do you think the pyramids were built, right? And there'd be 100 different. You just did the calculations, right? Like that's undeniable.
Yeah.
Forget how they're built.
Right.
I mean, that's like minor now.
Yeah.
I don't care how they were built now, whether it was vibration, telepathic, whatever. What the hell these things do is crazy.
Yeah, it's all the science is there. I mean, the Grand Gallery leading up to the King's Chamber is the location geometrically of the speed of light. So, I mean, how do you get
say that again? Say that again so we can.
The Grand Gallery leading up to the King's Chamber When you look at the latitude,
And what's the Grand Gallery, so everybody knows?
it's this area of the Great Pyramid on the inside that goes up this. It's an inside channel leading up to the King's Chamber. There used to be resonating rods inside of these slots going up the Grand Gallery. They now have been removed, but you can still see the slots where they were, because the Great Pyramid also generated wireless electricity. And so it was built on top of an aquifer. The aquifer is dry now because the Nile has moved away from the region. But when it was running underneath the Great Pyramid, underneath that crystal magnetized granite base, running water underneath crystal magnetized granite creates physiostatic electricity. And then the ions would run up into the pyramid and up that resonating chamber, that Grand Gallery. They would be stepped up amperage-wise, I'm only assuming, until they got into the King's Chamber, which would then be magnified even more. And then it would shoot up through the apex, and then wireless electricity would go around the area.
For king, queen, everybody in there.
Yeah, if you had all the obelisks that are around the region capture the wireless electricity, the ambient electricity, they're made out of crystal granite, all those obelisks are. And if you had a JED, looks like a Tesla coil, you can see them in the hieroglyphs. They had a JED connected to what looks like electrical wires, connected to light bulbs and gold electroplating and devices and everything else. They were using wireless electricity back in ancient Egypt. Well documented.
And I'm sorry to make you repeat yourself. Definitely watch the YouTube link that I'm going to have in here, because I know I'm just making you repeat yourself, but it's just so amazing, man.
Nah, it's all good, man. It's all good, yeah.
And then give a little bit about your background. Science, neurology, ancient civilization, Harvard. I mean...
Yeah. Well, I dedicate my life to research and study. I've read over 1,000 cylinder scrolls, tablets, papyruses, scriptures, books, in the last 20 years. I've been around the world now over 20 times. In the last 24 months, 11 times around the world, 259 cities. Last year, I spent 6 months in hotels. I've dedicated my life to researching in the field where the information is located. I took courses at MIT in applied neuroscience. I have a certificate in that. Courses at Harvard in ancient civilizations. I have a certificate in that. And so I just dedicated my life to obtaining the knowledge and also trying to put some foundation so people can say, okay, well, what's your credentials for this information? And so, well, look at this. Look what I've done here. I've been in over 1,000 TV shows and series and documentaries, and I've even got music. I have music that appears in documentaries, movies, TV series. You name it. 340 songs in global distribution. So I just try to expend my life, man, just tapping into myself and putting out, whatever it is inside of me that needs to get out. And I've been fortunate that I've been able to do that.
Congratulations on all that. And I just wanted to say it so that, I mean, if you're not interested by now, pull up tab 2, your channel here. So, this is the award that you're going to get.
Yeah, well, I'm giving out those awards.
Oh, you get to give them out.
Yeah, I received an award, which is actually up here. Maybe there might be an image there on maybe on the home page if you go to home. I received a Lifetime Achievement Award last summer. There it goes on the left. You see Giorgio Tsoukalos there. That's a video, so if you click it, it might start playing. I'm sorry.
It's all right. No, it's Spotify,
cool.
So it don't matter.
All right, cool. And so that video is a video of me receiving the award. Giorgio Tsoukalos from Ancient Aliens was the keynote speaker who read the speech, and then the acceptance speech for me to receive the award. And it's an award for education and philanthropy. It was an amazing honor to get that award. At the same time, I had already planned on creating an award for others, not just for a lifetime achievement, because I'm happy and pleased that I got that. But there's so many other categories. So when you go back to Conscious Awards, there's so many categories there that I wanted to be able to honor a lot of people. So I created an award ceremony, the first of its kind, just on the same level as the Oscars and the Grammys, the MTV Awards, BET Awards, the same level, the highest quality, 10-star event that you can get. And we had the fans vote for the people. We took in tens of thousands of votes.
That's so cool, man.
Yeah. And these are the top 3 nominees in each category. You can see Danica Patrick there, social media influencer. Yeah. Law of Attraction, I think he's got 5 million followers on Instagram. And podcasters, radio host, television actor, producer,
Robert Grant, I know him.
Yeah, Robert Grant there. The TV, I think he has the #1 TV show on the Gaia right now. Health and wellness, philanthropists, authors.
David Icke, I did David Icke on Zoom.
Yeah, nice.
He'll send your mind through a world spin after 2.5 hours, right?
Yeah, I've got 2 podcasts with him. He was in one of my online workshops. He was teaching with me.
Yeah,
good guy.
They tried to bury him.
Oh, they did.
And then isn't that funny? A lot of what he said came true. He said that in the 90s.
He was way ahead of his time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you can see here field researchers. There goes Robert Schock as one of the nominees there. You know, space anomaly hunters, spiritual leaders. So I tried to encompass everything. And there's also going to be a Lifetime Achievement Award, which we're picking that, not voting on. We're actually picking. We already know the person who's going to get that Lifetime Achievement Award at this event. And it's if you scroll down a little bit more, you might see the venue. This is the venue.
Man.
Oh, that's cool. Where's
It's
that?
one of the most beautiful venues in the world. It's the Adrian Art Center for the Performing Arts in Miami, Florida. It's nicer than the Sydney Opera House, in my personal opinion. It's newer. It's just built. And it's a magnificent theater. And we're going to have live performances and everything else. We're giving away an Audi A4 at the event to somebody in the actual audience live at the event. And it's just going to be an amazing event. So anybody who wants to come on down, they can go to forbiddenknowledge.com, get tickets. They
Just buy tickets, right? Anybody can go?
That's it, yeah. They can buy tickets. They can get box seats if they want. You know, you can get a regular seat. It's going to be a great event. Black tie, red carpet.
Good.
Everybody's going to be dressed nice.
You know, that just shows the interest that you brought.
Yeah.
You know, I know this has been going on for decades,
Yeah.
but I don't know that they were doing stadium-like things like
this.
this.
This is the first of its type, first of its kind, first ever of its kind, and I want to have this every year. And the reason why is because a lot of people in this community never get any recognition, very rarely. I mean, how many people are going to get a Lifetime Achievement Award like I did? That's rare, right? And so, but you bust your butt, you invest your money. I mean, you guys invested in all this equipment, you got all this stuff in here, right? You're doing a great job. You're bringing in incredible guests. This costs time, effort, money, and you deserve to have a chance to be recognized for it. It's not that we're trying to feed the ego, but we're saying, look, we're going to give people their flowers while they're still alive because they've put energy out there to change the world. Not it's not like these other Hollywood people that's just putting out all this garbage and crap, and these crazy rappers putting out all this crazy stuff about killing women and killing people and taking drugs. It's real stuff that's changing the consciousness on the planet. And I think it has reverberations throughout the entire universe. And I think that people deserve to get some type of recognition now versus waiting for them to pass away for some crazy thing that happens. And then now we're putting out memes about them. No, let's talk to them now. Let's give them something now. Let's say, hey, guy, great job. And I think it's also going to increase the amount of people that want to eventually work their way up to potentially getting nominated for an award like this. Like, hey, I would like, that would be nice for me to walk across stage and get something.
Yeah.
I'm going to step my game. I'm going to invest more time into my content. I'm going to put more effort into my research. I'm going to put my content out, make it look more crisp and nicer. I'm going to, and step the game up. And I think this is going to help people step their game up a little bit.
And I want to stay on this because I got a million questions for you, but still, you see how what you're using to do this, how nice that looks, red tie, red carpet. Mm-hmm. Okay, when you look around at 95% of people, what are they doing? TikTok bullshit, phone.
Yeah.
You tell them, hey, do you know, like, really what's going on?
Yeah.
Do you know, look at these stones. Like, look at these stone iPads. Oh, yeah. Yeah, okay, back to this.
They don't care.
But when you do it like that, then they say, oh, well, that would be cool to go to. Mm-hmm. They don't even know what it is.
They don't even know.
But they'll go. They get to dress up, wear a nice dress, whatever. Mm-hmm. Then if they just listen to 10%, maybe they get interested. Mm-hmm. And then you expand that more. And maybe that's a way to get people out of this nut circle they're in.
I agree.
But you got to do it like you're doing it.
Yeah.
You can't do it at like the clubhouse down the street.
No.
This episode is brought to you by Manscaped.com. Breaking news, Manscaped now sells beard products. That's right. They are once again revolutionizing men's grooming with brand new Beard Hedger Pro Kit. From a beard trim to a fresh shave, the technology behind Beard Hedger Pro Kit allows you to shave your signature beard look. Now you can finally use Manscaped products to make your drapes match your carpet by going to manscaped.com and using code MSCS Media for 20% off and free shipping. No one likes a weird beard, so say goodbye to all the stubble trouble with Manscaped's Pro Beard Kit. It all starts with the Beard Hedger. This thing is a monster of fixing faces. First off, this cordless trimmer has a rotary wheel that gives you 20 hair cutting lengths, all with one guard. No more messing around in drawers, this color one, that color one, all with one guard. Plus, it's waterproof, so you can shave in the shower and avoid all that hair in the sink. The Pro Kit doesn't end there, though. First, there's the beard shampoo and conditioner. You need to remember your hair is different. Next, Manscaped's beard oil. Cap it off with beard balm. The Pro Kit also comes with 3 different gifts: a beard brush, comb, and scissors to ensure your beard is ready to impress. So get 20% off and free shipping with the code MSCS Media at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com. Use the code MSCS Media. This episode is brought to you by Fiji. More than just water.
This is not just rock. It's ancient volcanic rock that filters tropical rain, giving it double the electrolytes and its signature soft, smooth taste. It's not just water. It's Fiji water.
You got to validate. We have to validate ourselves. You know, one thing I learned in entertainment when I started my record label and everything else, there's nobody coming to help me there either.
I read about that.
Yeah, I made a few phone calls here, and the people were like slamming doors in my face. I said, okay, I just do it myself then. There's no problem. I'll do it myself. And guess what? I did it. Made it a billboard and everything. So I realized that this kind of validation also brings the eyes we want, like the mainstream media will be there.
Mm-hmm.
What is Danica Patrick doing at this? What is this event again?
Yeah.
You know, what's going on now? And so all of a sudden, there's eyes coming, right? We have some big performances by famous people. Like, why are these people involved in this? What is going on here? Now all of a sudden, they want to know what's going on. And when it's done on this level, they know how much it costs to rent that place out.
Yeah.
We had to rent it out for 2 days, so we need one day for setup and then a day for the event, which costs the same. Wow. This is not a moneymaker. This is definitely not a moneymaker. But so when they told me how deep in the red we were going to be, I said, do it anyway.
Yeah.
Do it anyway.
Good
It
for you.
has to be done.
You have to do it.
Yeah.
And I think Dana Patrick, I would assume that you got her going into this because you're the only one that could push and explain this much. You know.
I was on her podcast recently.
Yeah,
that podcast, I think, I don't know,
congratulations.
close to 1 million views.
Yeah,
she's really
awesome.
doing a great job, like you guys.
Thank you.
Getting great guests. She had Stephen Greer on a few times, but she's really asking the tough questions, like you were doing, and she's gaining some serious steam on YouTube.
And like you said, you get her,
Mm-hmm.
then that leads to another,
Right.
another, and then you get say 10,
Right.
Non-space people.
Yeah.
And then people just go to want to see them.
That's it.
But within that,
They learn.
They learn.
They learn.
And now everything changes.
You reel them. It's like fishing. I'm
Yeah.
just casting out a reel.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's how we do too. Like we'll go from Harvard to professor to just,
Yeah.
a guy we know.
Right.
Because why not share it too?
Mhm.
Get him out of the mud too.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Go to the next tab. And then tell us about this.
Blueprint for God Power Part 2. And we spelled it that way on purpose. Part 1 was a huge online class. It was 11 and a half hours total teaching with myself and Dr. B. Serious. It's a metaphysical, spiritual, and financial literacy, how to link financial literacy to spirituality and manifestation workshop. And the first one was a huge, huge success. Over 10,000 people attended that online class, and they were begging for a part 2 because it seemed like we could have went on for another 20 hours. So we have another 10-hour class coming up. It's going to be October 29th this year. It's going to be part 2 to part 1 of the Blueprint for God Power, and we're going to go even deeper into more knowledge, more information, more metaphysics, more spirituality. It's a very interactive online workshop where the people have to interact with us. We give them things to do. It's not just like you're just listening to us talk for 10 hours. They're actually interactive question and answers, and we're also going to be flying out one person who bought a ticket to the online event per month. They're gonna put them on a list at the end of the event. We're gonna fly out all those people who we selected once a month, and they're gonna have a special sit down lunch Q&A with us.
Oh, cool.
So something special for some people. We'll get randomly selected, and they'll sit down with us and have a random Q&A over a nice lunch. We're gonna pay for all their expenses, their airfare, hotel, everything. So it's gonna be a great event. Looking forward to this event, and it's on Eventbrite.com. Blueprint for God Power Part 2.
We'll have it in there. And as we know, the flight tickets now are insane. So it's not like, even if you're going coach, it's like, remember back in the day, you could go first class?
Man.
You could go first class back in the day for $700.
Easy.
10 years ago.
Yeah,
I used to go to Lakers games.
Yeah.
Now I looked, shit.
Every time I travel somewhere, especially, I'm going overseas a lot.
Oh,
every
boy.
time I travel, Elizabeth and I, it's $15,000-$20,000 every single time we go, just for the flights. That's just the flights.
Not the car, the hotel,
Right.
everything else.
Right.
I'll go to the next tab. Now, you have your own streaming TV. That is very
That is cool.
impressive, sir. That is not easy to do.
Yeah.
So tell everybody about the streaming TV that you have.
Mhm.
I subscribe to it. You can
Thank
get a free trial. I think it's like $7 a month.
Yeah.
And it's not like BS.
Mhm.
So what can people expect from this? What can they get out of it? And if they're not super into space,
Mhm.
why give them another reason why
Sure.
to subscribe?
Well,
Because there's
first
a
of
lot
all,
more than just space.
Yes, a lot more. I started Forbidden Knowledge TV before Netflix existed. Yeah. And so I initially did it. I launched it. I put some videos up. I got like to 1 million views in the first couple of months, and the bandwidth fees were like $1,400 a month at the time. And I was like, if I keep going, this is going to cost me $50,000 a month, and I'm not monetizing it. So I turned it off.
Yeah.
But I saved the name. And this can be tracked by when the name was bought. You'll see I had it on my own server. I turned it off. Then Netflix came. Then Netflix was there, but they didn't have the streaming yet. They only had the DVD by mail order. Remember that?
Yeah.
And then Prime came, and I waited and waited. And right before the pandemic came, I had already started making plans to launch, because I said, now, after checking into it, this is affordable. I can make profits doing this, and I can invest the profits back into more content, and I can produce my own content. And so I launched it right before the pandemic came, and boom, it exploded.
Perfect timing.
Perfect timing. Perfect timing.
More of that math there, buddy.
Yeah, look, man. Everything happens in divine time, right? And so Forbidden Knowledge, what happened was I wanted a network that people can go to that had everything from UFOs and aliens to ancient civilizations to metaphysics to philanthropy to philosophy to exercise and fitness, yoga and everything else, music, conscious music, meditation tracks. It's over 30 or 40 hours of meditation music, custom produced by myself on this network.
That's right. You got yoga on there. That's huge. That's a big thing for people.
Right. Yoga. We got, so many cooking classes now. We have a new cooking show that just launched. There's over right now 2,300 shows up there right now. There's a lot of content up there. Wow. And I think people can go through it. My Egyptian Mystery School, which was filmed live at Dame Dash Studios, 36 hours.
Yeah, he's a funny guy.
Oh, yeah. 36 heads. He's a great guy.
Don't piss him off.
No, don't piss him off. He's already ready for you.
Yeah.
But he let me do this at his Burbank Studios. Wow. And so I think there's 40 episodes, which encompass about 36 hours of teaching the ancient Egyptian mysteries. And that's still the #1 series on the platform right now, the Egyptian Mystery School.
How can it not be?
It just got so much stuff. I gave Eric Von Daniken his own TV series on my network, probably one of the last TV series you'll ever see him in.
Yeah.
And we're working on a brand new series right now with Eric Von Daniken. You remember Chariots of the Gods?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're going to remix that, and Eric Von Daniken is going to hand the torch over to me.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And so it's going to be amazing.
Cool.
It's huge. It's massive. And then of course the Black Knight Satellite and many other documentaries. The Black Knight Satellite documentary it won Independent Film of the Year award. So, and there's just so much stuff there. So if somebody who's not into aliens and UFOs, that's fine. There's a lot of stuff about science, physics, ancient civilizations, also, self-empowerment. You have, motivation, manifestation. Our manifestation workshops do phenomenal. There's probably about 20 hours of manifestation workshops up there where people can go through and learn from incredible speakers, including myself. So that's just a great opportunity for somebody to get knowledge for less than 25 cents a day.
Yeah.
You can't really find that level of knowledge anywhere else. 25 cents a day, $7 a month, and you're going to get an incredible wealth of knowledge. And we're always adding more and more shows every single week.
Wow, and you're putting money into this too, boy.
Yeah, that's a lot of stuff.
A lot of money.
Because when they started all that censoring before we got to deal with Spotify, we looked and we were like, all right, well, maybe we'll do it this way. And then I saw like, okay, if you're going to get 1 million views or streams or whatever, you better get that checkbook ready.
I know.
I thought, I think we'll wait. And then if you want to do a free trial, check it out. How long is the trial last?
The trial's been extended now. It's a 7-day free trial.
Shit.
So you can sign up. 7 days, you can watch a lot of content. So I say, look, just go sign up for free. And if you like what you see, just keep it. And if you come to a situation where it's, money's tight and you can't afford it, just put it on vacation mode. You don't have to cancel. You can go on vacation mode for as long as you want, and you can take it back off vacation mode and keep watching. And canceling, there's no cancellation fees at all if you decide to cancel. It's not a contract thing. So I say, hey, look, people are spending more than that on dumb stuff.
Yeah.
Why not spend $7 on your own knowledge?
And you know what I wish? I wish people would get your channel, and instead of giving an iPad to their kid with some craziness on it, why not give them something like I have a daughter.
Right.
She's into monkeys.
Wow.
Like real live monkeys.
Yeah,
like how they're, different and
You need to get a pet monkey.
volcanoes and the big wow. And I put this on. And she doesn't know what they're saying.
Yeah.
But it's just the big structures and the space.
Oh.
And then get their mind on that rather than,
Yeah.
because our generation,
Come on.
the generation right now, buddy, we got a big problem.
We got a problem. We're going to see the effect of the problem in about another 10 years when they are in positions of having to run the planet. And we're going to see a huge drop-off in athleticism from athletes, in knowledge from just academia. I mean, in every aspect of life on the planet is going to take a dip. There's no way to get around it. The dip is coming. It's going to open up opportunities, though, for some people in other countries that have been studious and taking care of business, and they're going to take on those high-level jobs, whereas the majority of the people from this country are probably going to be suffering.
I still think what you're doing with that big, what's that place called in Miami? I always forget the name of it.
Where the event's at?
Yeah.
Oh, the Adrian Arts Center.
Yeah. The more you do like that,
Yeah.
will bring out this generation
It will
because
help.
it's,
Yeah.
and maybe get them out of it.
That's why we did the music. The music was to reach out to the youth. Okay, so the youth like trap beats. So I said,
Yeah,
what
trap
if I did trap beats and put conscious lyrics on top of trap beats, but conscious lyrics that sound gangster, that didn't sound like they were, getting preached to. And we tried it, and it started working. And, I mean, lo and behold, we made Billboard in 2018 in 8 categories for 4 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man, maybe you are really nailing it. Maybe you're a damn avatar.
I was thinking
shit.
that. I don't know. He's
You're doing, I mean, I didn't know all that.
Yeah.
You got, I mean,
Wow.
I don't know. All right. Well,
I didn't have to go to any nightclubs. I didn't have to get any drinks and have bottles of sparklers on top. I didn't have to go to strip clubs. I didn't have to leave my house. We collaborated with 3 different artists in 3 different parts of the United States, and we never had to be in the same room at the same time. We got all these albums done.
you hit the Billboard.
Hit Billboard, 8 weeks in 4 categories.
Yeah.
You go from Billboard to calculating all the pyramids to reading stones
Has this before
to
Netflix?
streaming TV.
Streaming TV.
I don't know, man. Can you slip me a note or something before you leave of what's going to happen to me? No, but really, congratulations.
Thank
I
you.
mean, I just from doing this, it's no hokey pokey stuff.
Yeah, no, it's all real, and people really appreciate it. People are turning around. I've seen the process, because when I first started talking to my friends in the bushes about the UFO that I saw, right? We'd have to hide 2 guys I trusted to talk to about this, and we were theorizing, could they come from the ocean? What do you think? And then, so from hiding in the bushes to a few years later, VHS tapes, exchanging VHS conspiracy tapes. And then from that, it went to cassette tapes, and then from that, it ended up on CDs, then DVDs, then web forums, blogs. Now I'm on TV. So I've seen this growth process of being able to get this knowledge out over time. And I remember this is about maybe 18 years ago, I read a Hopi Indian prophecy that stated that in the future, the world will be connected by a World Wide Web. This web will connect the entire planet, and information will travel instantaneously. And I said to myself that day when I read that quote, when that happens, I'll be able to get my knowledge around the world. And that day finally arrived. I remember the day that I saw IBM.com commercial came on TV. It was 1997. And I said, .com, what is that? And when I looked it up, it was the web. And I said, the web? I went straight to Barnes & Noble, and I found out it was the World Wide Web. World Wide Web, HTML was here. And I said, this is it. This is my time. This is my time now. And that's when it started. I started a company called .com Marketing Group the next week, and that company was built into a multi-million-dollar corporation, which I sold. And I got acquired in 2004 by Glowbench, and then we got acquired by the Amber Alert Company. And then I took 7 years off to just focus on developing my knowledge base. But, yeah.
That's some heavy stuff.
Yeah, that's pretty sick.
Now, before we get into like your main thing, what do you think about perception? Okay, so I look up in the sky and I see the moon. So my perception is that the moon is there. And it was Hoffman who said, if when you're in school, you draw that cube thing, and it looks like you could pick it up, but you really can't pick it up. When I'm born, I'm told that's the moon, that's the sun. Okay, that's Rob. This is you. Do you think where does that fit in all this, if any at all? Is this just all perception? Like that light, I'm just perceiving that that's a light because all I know is that that's a light.
Yeah. There's a couple of levels of perception that we're talking about. The first one is on a surface level, it could be like you're saying, is the moon real? Is the sun real? There's people who out there who say the moon and the sun are not real, that the sun is a light bulb. They believe this wholeheartedly. I say that's actually an incorrect perception. The sun and moon are real based on the fractal holography that we are encompassed in. We are encapsulated in this holograph. We're living in a fractal holographic matrix. And in this matrix, it's made of light. And in this light matrix, it's a program. Everything is made of program code. Solidity is an illusion. Distance is an illusion, right? The sun and moon, in essence, really are actually an illusion. Right?
But in this, in the reality that we're in, the moon's real.
It's real, exactly.
So in this reality, our perception is real. That you're here, I'm here.
Right.
In this reality,
Right. But when you go to the subatomic level,
right,
you discover,
as in that this
different.
isn't reality.
Right, exactly, that we're not even in base reality.
Right.
This is all a fractal holographic illusion. When you take a hologram and you go down to the smallest piece of a hologram and analyze it, you'll find the entire image in the smallest piece. The only thing you lose is resolution. When you take an atom and you start looking into the atom, the deeper you go, you find it's fractalized. But when you finally get deep into that nucleus, all of a sudden, all you lose is resolution. We realize now that we're living in a fractal holographic matrix. And what that means is the sun, the moon, and everything else, we're real from the perspective of the third dimension and how we analyze and break down these electromagnetic waves that we collapse into the illusion of solidity. But from a scientific standpoint, on the subatomic level, we know that atoms are 99.999% empty space. And for example, if I take all the human beings on Earth, 8 billion humans, and I take all the empty space out of their atoms in their bodies, I can fit all 8 billion humans into one sugar cube.
Right.
We're not really here. It's a light matrix. It's a matrix of light. So from one perspective, you're looking at, okay, my perception is telling me this is all, solid, and I can travel from place to place. I'm sitting in a chair that's holding me up. What's really happening is electromagnetic repulsion. The atoms that make up this chair are repelling the atoms that are in my pants and in my body and creating this repulsion. You don't touch anything. When you put your hands on something, the atoms, the electrons that orbit the atoms in your hand are repelling the electrons orbiting the atoms in the table, right? And so, but if I can match the frequency of the vibration of the atoms in this table with my hand, I can pass my hand straight through the table, proving that there's hardly anything really here. And the future of waste management, what is the future of waste management? You just collapse the atoms. You take away the empty space in between the atoms, and you can turn 100 billion tons of garbage into a speck of dust instantaneously.
Right. So this chair that we feel on our butt, that's just the atoms pushing, to make it simple, against us. But
exactly.
This chair technically really isn't here. We see it here,
right,
in our perception and our reality, but it's really not here.
It's not
and
here.
that could be proven through what
quantum
you just
physics.
said.
Yes.
Quantum physics. Yeah,
Matter
Robert
of fact,
Beto.
if you walk out of the room and there's none of us are in this room, the chair only exists as a wave of potentials.
Right.
We know that all matter exists first as waves before they collapse into solidity. We know that from the double slit experiment, which has been duplicated multiple times, right? So your house exists as a wave of potentials until you see it, then it collapses back into a structure. It always collapses back into the same structure because the frequency of the way the atoms were stacked is always going to be the same frequency. So when it collapses into solidity, it then becomes that chair or that house again. And so anything that you're not looking at exists as waves. And we've now, in physics.org, showed the photo online of the very first.
I can't believe they actually showed that.
Oh, yeah, they showed it. They found for the first time a wave being collapsed into a solid piece of particle. So they were able to get the conversion process from almost wave, almost solid, in between state. They took a photo, physics.org. And so we now know that, wow, wave-particle duality is actual fact, not fiction, and that everything exists as a wave of potentials before it collapses into solidity, or what we think is solidity. And what collapses it? Consciousness. See, when you look at the double slit experiment, the electrons decide to go from being waves into solid. When you're not looking, they stay as waves. When you look, they turn back into solid again. So like, what's going on here? When we're not looking, it's a wave of potentials, but when we're looking, these particles
are there.
So what's going on? It's these electrons are intelligent. They're making a conscious decision based on observation. So what does that tell you? It tells you that everything's conscious because atoms are everything. Everything's made of atoms.
Right.
So this cell phone is made of atoms, which means that this cell phone is conscious. It thinks. Right? This bottle is made of atoms. This bottle's conscious. We can't say things are man-made. Man only stacks atoms in a particular format
to create
things.
Something like this.
But the atoms have been here for 13.5 billion years.
So now would that, because I always get stuck on this one when I go through it. So would that explain deja vu, or I'm thinking of something and Rob calls me? Is that just atoms, or how do you explain
That's
that in
entanglement.
that way?
That's quantum entanglement.
Okay, can you explain
you-
that one? That one I don't.
Okay, so with quantum entanglement, if you take a laser, this is one of the first experiences, you take a laser, and you can actually utilize a laser to take two particles, and with that laser beam, you can get them on the same frequency. And so what you're doing is using something called parabolic down conversion in science, right? And then you get these two particles on the same frequency. One is going to have a spin rate up, other atom is going to have a spin rate down, for example. If I take one of those particles and send it to the other side of the universe, if I had the capability, if I change the information at this local particle, the one on the other side of the universe will change instantaneously, bypassing the speed of light, proving that distance is also an illusion. Einstein called it spooky action at a distance, and it scared the hell out of him. Now, what we found out recently is something amazing, that the human mind is connecting not only to higher dimensions, up to 11 dimensions, but also it's entangling with other information that exists as waves of information in the universe. A lot of the times you go, I got a great idea. I just got this idea. You downloaded that idea. You
Right.
entangled with information that already exists.
Did already exist.
You got on the same matching frequency. Not only you, but other people downloaded it too, but you were able to discern it. This is what explains how different types of inventions can happen simultaneously on Earth at the same time within a few days of each other, totally separate on the other side of the planet. People don't even know each other, but they start inventing the same things. It's the information that already exists. Every thought you think leaves your skull as a wave of light, a light wave. You can't see it because we can only see 1% of the light spectrum, but it's a wave of light. And to prove this, if I put a cap on your head with the sensors, I could send those light waves that left your skull to a computer, and we can see your brain activity. Those light waves permeate the space-time ether, and this ether is an electronic grid. It's a grid of power. We're all on the grid. All you have to do is tap into the information, and you can download the information into your consciousness. And scientists now have realized this is an actual fact. They also learned that DNA can upload and download wirelessly information. It can even convert digital bits of information, zeros and ones, into ACs, Ts, and Gs, and stored on actual DNA. This one scientist named George Church.
Oh, we're out of zeros and ones, and they don't. That's not breaking. Okay.
Listen, he took.
When do you think that would be breaking news? I mean, zeros and ones.
This is massive news. I don't know why this should be taught in elementary school now.
I agree with you.
He took an ebook, which had metadata and colored images and everything else. Not just like a page or two, but like a sophisticated ebook, and he replicated it 80 billion times, and he then downloaded onto 1 gram of DNA, which is a drop on the tip of your finger. He converted the zeros and ones into A, T, C's, and G's, which is what DNA reads, the read-write. He stored it in a volume on the DNA, and then he also used the DNA as a server and sent it back up. So he uploaded and downloaded directly from DNA. This is incredible. So we're totally interfaceable with machinery, which is crazy stuff. And when you look at the human body, they discovered, first of all, 1 drop of DNA can store 433 petabytes of data.
Wow. Now, how much bigger is a petabyte than a gigabyte?
Than a terabyte?
Terabyte.
1,000 terabytes.
Jeez.
Wow.
Right. So you're talking about a lot of information.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden they realize that the human body can store 13.5 billion years of information.
Wow.
In one human body, in the DNA.
No, that makes
and
sense.
how long have atoms existed? 13.5 billion years. So the secrets to unlock all the codes of the universe exist inside of each and every one of our bodies.
And then throw subconscious in there, right? Because that's a real thing.
Yeah.
So when somebody says, oh, I was just thinking about you and you called me, the other person doesn't think that, but subconsciously they downloaded that your thought.
You connected to them.
Yeah.
Connected to them because the ether is an instantaneous connection.
That makes
You
sense.
can think of somebody, and that thought now is permeating. It's out there on the energetic grid, and that person now gets that data, and it comes in their head, and then they pick up the phone. Boom. Next thing you know, you're getting a phone call, or they're calling you. It's real, and it's really because of this connection that exists between everything. Separation is really an illusion. We're still all energetically connected. From the beginning of the universe, when it was the size of a fist, until its expansion to where the size it is now, the space that appears in between everything is actually all an illusion. There's still an energetic connection that's between everything that has separation, including me and you sitting right here. We're still energetically connected. And so because of that, you're able to connect to anything and all information anywhere. This is what the Akashic Records are. This is what the Book of Life is. This is what all this stuff is, and it's there. Some people can tap into it.
tell a story about your dad.
Yeah, I was just thinking about it. All right, so
This is a good one.
and I'll describe it like this. So my dad is the least religious person you'll meet. And this was when I was in high school or a little younger than that. I was away, my mom was away. My dad's the only one home. So it's, say, midnight, give or take, 1 o'clock in the morning. And he hears a noise in the house. So he wakes up, checks, no one's there. Lays back down, falls asleep again. He hears another noise and he hears his name, like somebody saying, Bob, Bob. Okay? Jumps out of the bed. Who's there? Who's there? Nothing. Door's locked, nothing. Goes back to sleep, finally sleeps through the night, wakes up the next morning, gets a phone call from his sister-in-law at about 8 a.m., and she's like, hey, Bob, I just want to let you know that your brother passed away last night. He passed away last night. My dad goes, well, what time around? And she says 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. And that was the exact time that he heard a noise and he heard his name. So, you know, we talked about before, I said about energies and the energy that leaves someone's body or goes somewhere. How would you describe what that phenomena was?
I totally believe that happens. So the scientists were able to measure what they call the soul leaving a person's dead body at the time of death. They noticed through weight, they were able to measure the weight change in the time that the spirit left the body versus the time that the spirit was still in the body. And, you know, if you analyze and really look at what we're made of, right, this avatar, this is a biological robot that accepts program codes. Consciousness is not created by the brain. The brain does not create consciousness. It downloads consciousness. There's a stream that consistently permeates into the third dimension, a stream of consciousness. The avatar body is able to encapsulate it for a period of time. Once this avatar body ceases to exist or work properly, it releases that energy. Without the spiritual energy, it can't even animate the body. They would just like that movie Avatar. They just be in like these, you know, artificial wombs, right? You know, just floating around waiting for something to animate it. The spirit animates it. Now, when your dad's brother was passed away, his spirit was released, and that energy was attempting to communicate with him, you know, on its way to whatever next mission it was going to go on, back to source or reconnect or whatever it was. But there seems to be this people who have NDEs, near-death experiences. There seems to be this time period in between death and before they completely are gone, where they have the ability to try to reconnect or with their loved ones and so forth. Sometimes it's even days before they're completely gone and released from this realm. So I believe that it's possible that his spirit released from the avatar and came to try to communicate with him and say, hey, his last goodbyes. You know, it's very possible. That
makes the most sense out of anything.
Yeah.
Right? We ran this.
I really believe it. You know, the body is really an incredible thing. It's got to be animated by something. It's the ghost in the shell. And when you look at the way the spirit operates, each one of us is picking up a frequency from one source. There's only one consciousness. You know, the individuality is also an illusion. You're me and I'm you. I'm talking to you, but I'm talking to myself because it's only one. What gives us the illusion of separation of individuality is the fact that a radio station, which we call consciousness, is broadcasting into this dimension, right? It's broadcasting on all frequencies. Your body's picking up 0.1, I'm picking up 0.2, he's picking up 0.3. That's the only difference. So I'm God walking in the flesh, experiencing life as 0.2, Billy Carson. You're 0.1, so forth and so on. So it's just 0.1 frequency. Like a radio station can broadcast out multiple frequencies, and you can tune your radio and pick up anything you want. But it's all coming from one source.
All one source.
That's it.
Now, okay, so you have that. Now, when you get deeper, are we a simulation inside of a simulation? Do you think that's what this is?
Absolutely. There's no doubt in my mind.
So this is, you know, when somebody says simulation, they think, oh, somebody's got a video game, like an ABC, Sega, Genesis button, right? So with all your research, and again, I've never seen anybody in my life do the math that you did with those pyramids and many other things and explain it where I could understand it in 1 hour. So can you break down when you say, because simulation, I think, none of this is real. It's all fake.
Yeah.
It's all just whatever, like, this isn't real, you're not real. It is to me now, but it's really not.
Yeah.
But then you could be a simulation inside of a simulation.
Right.
So could you explain that in your professional words? It's you.
Well, what we're talking about is there seems to be, of course, a base reality at some point. The beginning of the beginning of the beginning, the very first beginning. Right now, I don't think we're even close to base reality. We could be Googles of realities in, and Google's a number, right? And so when you look at the fact that we ourselves are creating artificial realities now. So if you look at No Man's Sky, 14 college students made a video game that fits on one DVD that has 80 quadrillion planets and an unlimited number of life forms that come into existence over and over again, and the game never ends. Inject AI into that universe. What would happen?
Plus quantum computers.
Boom. All of a sudden, people are going, who am I? Where did I come from? What's the Big Bang? Well, the Big Bang is when we turn on the game console. See? And then you have the other game that's, what do you call it? It's these people that walk around. They have lives and everything else. The Sims.
The Sims. Yeah, I always think like Minecraft too.
Yeah.
Very similar.
Minecraft, very similar.
Yeah.
And the Sims, they have babies. They go to work. They go to clubs. They party. They have moms and dads, and they get on buses and everything. But they're going to inject. They've already said this. They're going to inject AI into this game. Well, the Sims then become conscious. Can you now see the Sims eventually creating their own game within the game, or their own universe within the game? So all of a sudden, and it gets better and better. I remember I had an Atari 2600 when it first came out.
I don't know Atari too. Yeah.
I had the one button and one stick.
Yep.
And it gave me a callus in my palm of my hand after 2 weeks of playing, and I put it in the closet. Never used it again. But the fact is, it was Pong. It was Galaga.
Oh, you got stuck on Pong.
Yeah.
Everybody did.
Oh God. Listen. But now you look at the video game. My son had one on. He's 23 now. He had it on maybe a year or two ago. I saw it. I thought he was looking at a real football game.
Yeah, correct.
It's nuts, man.
He said, no, that's the video. I said, that's the video game?
Yeah, it looks real.
That's crazy. So can you imagine how they would then develop over time their own universes within a universe, their own reality within a reality? So if we're doing that, we're just doing we're a fractal of the whole. We only keep duplicating what's already happened on the grand scale. And so we know that we're doing it. It's happening. It's happened to us. We're just replicating what's already built into our genetics and our DNA. We're doing the same thing. So we are living in a fractal holographic universe. I actually have a book coming out in about 4 months based on this topic and breaking it all down. 10-chapter book. But we are living in a fractal holographic universe, and there are potentially Googles of levels of reality that exist. And hypothetically, we could be living inside of a child's science experiment. I mean, you just never know.
Do you think we are?
I don't think we are. I'm just being facetious.
Yeah,
but
I mean, not like
time,
say a child, but do you think we're in like Minecraft or whatever? And
this is a huge experiment, and the experiment is to collect data. This is what this experiment is. And why do I say that? When you look at the human brain, if you have to look at as above, so below, the brain is consciousness, right? So let's just take the giant master brain and bring it down to our head. It's full of darkness. There's nothing around. It can't see, hear, feel, touch, smell. It doesn't know anything that's going on the outside of itself. So it needs friends. On the mass scale, it needs beings throughout the universe. On the small scale, it needs sensory perception, touch, smell, hearing, feel, and all that, right? So it says to its friends, go out there and collect me some data so I can figure out what's going on. So touch goes out. Now, my hand's touching it. My hand doesn't know what it's doing. It's touching this information. It's taking the data, sending it straight to my brain. Seeing, smelling, and all of a sudden the brain is sorting it all out and saying, oh, this is what's going on out there. Let me project a hologram so we can navigate through this matrix based on this data that you've just collected from me. And so when you take that to the grand scale again, the mass consciousness is collecting data. What is it like to live like you? What is it like to live like me? What is it like to live like him? What is it like to live like an alien on another planet? What is it like to be a blade of grass, a plant, an apple, an orange, a rock? And it's collecting this information for the purpose to what end? I don't have that answer. But it's sending it back to source, and source is collecting this data to get an understanding of what's going on in this third dimension and what is it like to experience it from a subjective level.
What do you think of that, buddy?
Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah.
Robert Beto, other than you,
Yeah.
Do you know who Robert Beto is?
No.
When we get to your propulsion, or what you're doing with zero energy and stuff, they blew his thing up. I'll get to that,
Wow.
but that would be great for you too. But he was like that with Beto. Beto killed him with the CERN thing he was doing, and
Nice.
no space and no time, and he was working with Elon at the time.
Wow.
That's crazy. And then when going back to I call them stone pads, just to make it simple, right? The stone. You find out by reading them that the Milky Way isn't the Milky Way, right? And that the planet, I'm going to say it wrong, but Tiamat, which is never talked about, which is kind of insane to me.
I know. Nobody talks about it.
Crashed, but yet they wrote about it. But in order for them to have written about it, then they had to have been here before Earth.
Yeah.
Okay? But we have that because, again, like we said earlier, they passed it on and passed it on. And then you have that Earth is a piece of another planet that happened to fall here.
Yep.
Then Uranus got hit, and it's tilted, which you never hear about.
Nope.
Okay, that made things work. And then what is it, Planet Ceres? You're the first person, right?
Ceres.
Is in the orbit.
CERES.
CERES. That's going in what's the orbit?
You talking about the retrograde orbit? It's just outside of Mars. So you have Mars and then you have Ceres, which has more fresh water on it than Earth.
Even right now?
Yeah, right now.
Now, what the hell? Now, could there be life on there?
Oh, there's life there. We sent the probe out to deep space, and as it passed by Ceres, it captured. It was the probe that was going to Pluto. It captured the lights on. And so NASA was scrambling because they were so happy they did transmit it without even analyzing the image first. They were like, oh, my God, we got to scramble to tell them, well, it's ice particles maybe reflecting light. But then when we got to the other side where there was no sun reflecting, there was still lights on. And they couldn't come up with an answer for that one either. So there's people living on Ceres.
So why in the hell don't they go after that?
They probably have their own mission there. They probably are already in communication with these people. Who knows what's going on? They keep so much from us. But there's life on the planet Ceres. CERES. It's not Sirius. Some people get Sirius is light years away. No, Ceres. They don't even have it on the map of the solar system. It's Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, and then Ceres. Then the asteroid belt. Then the rest of the big gas giants.
That's what I was trying to think. Yeah,
the asteroid belts. That used to be Tiamat.
So is Pluto a planet now, or are we still it's like a planet one day?
They've gone back to planet. Yeah, they keep switching.
Oh, it's a planet
now.
It's
a planet now. And they found amazing structures on Pluto when they sent that mission out there. High resolution. Anybody can download them from the I think it's Caltech or the European Space Agency website, and you can see anomalies on Pluto, things that shouldn't be there. They also have verified that there's liquid water on Pluto, even though it's way out there. There's liquid water. There's so much going on, man. It's mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling, and I think that they're in communication or researching all these planets and moons because they keep sending these military craft up. They call them the X-33Bs. They let you know when they launch them. This is military shuttles. So the space shuttle program didn't shut down. They just took it to top secret military. They go away for 2 years at a time, and then they come back. Look them up. It's incredible. Where are they going? What are they doing? They're taking cargo ships into space for 2 years. Where are they going? But they won't tell us. But they'll show you the launch and they'll show you the landing. They won't tell you what's in the cargo or where they're going.
Well, they got to get the credit.
Yeah.
They got to get the hip hop hooray.
Got to beat the chest a little bit.
So now, and again, I hate to make you repeat yourself, but how did Earth come about? This planet? Because you explain it just so good.
Yeah. If you look in the Enuma Elish and the 7 Tablets of Creation, which is an amazing work of art, a lot of the information from that's in the Old Testament came from directly, some of it word for word from these tablets. And these tablets are thousands of years old, and they've been copied over and over again. But they talk about the creation of our solar system from the very beginning, and it all makes scientific sense with the orbital mechanics and everything else, gravity. And what you find out is there was this planet 4 to 6 times larger than Earth called Tiamat. Tiamat was here before Earth. Tiamat was a water-bearing planet, and here's what's interesting. In the tablets, it says that this planet was so beautiful when the light shined on it from the sun that it rivaled the sun's glory. Now, how would they know this? How would they know that this planet was more beautiful than the sun because of how it shined with the water and everything else in the dry land? How?
And again, there's no Earth at this time.
There's no Earth at this time.
Yeah, that's crazy. And they wrote this.
Now, in the very beginning stages of a creation of our solar system, there's a lot of chaos going on. You have rogue planets, rogue moons, and everything else. There was one captured brown dwarf, which is called Nibiru. What it has actually planets orbiting it. One of them was called Nibiru. And it got captured gravitationally by our solar system, and it came on this very close end to the sun elliptical orbit which would take it right through the center of the actual solar system, which affected Uranus and Saturn and everything else. They know this now. This is real science. They teach in astrophysics in college. They teach you this, that this happened. They don't know what the body was that came through, but they said a body came through here and caused havoc in our solar system in ancient times. Well, one of these satellites orbiting this brown dwarf star crashed into Tiamat and made it explode. According to these tablets, that became the asteroid belt. But it released Mars. Mars was a moon of this planet. Mars was a habitable moon, not a planet. That would explain Mars' crazy elliptical orbit around our sun. You can reverse the orbit and you can find out that, this used to orbit something else in ancient times with simple computer modeling. We know this now. It's a fact. Our moon was also orbiting this Tiamat. It wasn't a part of a collision with the Earth and this and that, all this crazy stuff they teach you in college. It's ridiculous. The fact is the moon was already there. That's why the moon is made of only helium-3 and Earth has no helium-3 on it. If this was a collision between Earth and a giant asteroid,
There would have to be helium-3, right?
yeah, if I drive my car into your car,
I'm going to have paint chip from it, right?
thank you.
It doesn't take a rocket scientist to get that one.
This is basic logic.
Yeah.
This is not even rocket science. It's basic logic. Nothing doesn't exist. But when you look at this, it all makes sense. A huge chunk of Tiamat swung away with the water and all the organic material needed for life and recoalesced in the third position from the sun as Earth, gravitationally tugging along with it, the moon. All right. And so Earth is a part of an ancient civilization. This is why when you go into these mines that we have, right, these coal mines, and they find hammers and tools and pottery that date back based on the layers of Earth 200, 300, 400 million years old.
That's nuts. You hear that?
Mm-hmm. And I'm saying, well, guess what, guys? This stuff is that old, but it's because it was here when we were part of another planet.
Yeah.
That's another civilization on another planet. You're looking at something, a remnant of something that existed that made its way here, traveled with us here as we recall this as Earth, and you're digging down into it, you're looking at, but this was part of when we were Tiamat. People were there. There was a civilization there. The evidence is what you just dug up, 300 million year old stuff, because human beings weren't here at that time. See? So there's evidence that we were here in the solar system, but not Earth, but Tiamat. It's all in the geological record and the archaeological record, but nobody wants to look at this. And it's plain as day. It's so easy to see, but they're ignoring what's really happening here. We are a part of what used to be another planet. And so that's how Earth got here. We are a broken piece of a massive planet, and the moon was tugged along with it, and Mars got slipped into its own crazy orbit. And more evidence of this, Mars has one side completely charred. That's the side that took impact from this explosion.
That's what's the impact, yeah.
The other side is the smoothest surface in our solar system. And so Mars also is on a tilt this way. Why? Because when the landmass from Tiamat hit it, it pulled its axis down 45 degrees. And that's what destroyed Mars the first time. The second time, because Mars began to heal, the second time was a war. We know this because the Mars Global Surveyor and the rovers have detected xenon, but not any kind of xenon, weapons-grade xenon.
When you say war, you mean intelligence like you and I on Mars?
Yeah, an actual war between people. Well, you know Mars is known as the god of war.
Yeah.
Not because it
I just thought they said that because it was red and
that's what everybody
people think we can live on there. Because they don't tell you anything.
Yeah, I know.
Why in the hell when they say this? Because they don't know exactly. Is it because they don't know exactly what hit?
Some know, but a lot of academia, they've been programmed to regurgitate information. The thing we have with the education system in the world, and mostly really in America, we're only taught to regurgitate answers, not really taught to seek truths and ask questions. So we know, like I can go to any adult and I can say, what's 2 times 2? And they're going to say, oh, it's 4. And I say, well, why? Why is it 4? Then they got to think about it.
Why is it 4?
They only were taught to remember the answer. They were never taught to figure out the problem, you see? And so this is what it is. And so Mars is the god of war because there was a war. That Atlantean war that was that created the sinking of the ring city, it wasn't just a ring city. That ring city was just one capital of dozens of capitals that existed on Earth, the moon, and Mars. It was an interplanetary war, and humans on Earth went to war against people on Mars. This is in the Sumerian tablets. And the evidence of this is the fact that this weapons-grade xenon, which is a waste product of what? Nuclear warfare. Nuclear warfare.
We know that for a fact.
We know this for a scientific absolute
it's insane
fact.
They don't tell any. I just can't believe these professors don't ever
This is
And
all cataloged in real science and peer-reviewed data, and the data can be downloaded from all the official sites, Caltech,
Really?
European Space Agency, NASA. You can get this data. It's readily available to the general public. Nobody just really knows it's there. Nobody's told it's there, but it's all there, and it's all real. So we know that there's weapons-grade xenon in the atmosphere and in the soil, and the amounts of it lets us know there was a global nuclear war that happened on Mars.
Do you think it's because whoever the powers may be or the people who are in charge here, they know that? And we and him talked about this before, that is it possible that, we talk about global warming, but we're not talking about global warming. We're talking about eventually the Earth will just blow up. I don't know how long that will be, but eventually it will blow up. And like you're saying, we were formed from the other planet that formed Earth, that the people that are in power right now are living here realize that this is going to happen, and we need to get out of here and get to another planet, per se.
Breakaway civilizations are at the top of their list.
Yeah.
Just like this planet became a breakaway civilization. As a matter of fact, when I went to the Aboriginals in Australia and went to the Aboriginal elders, their handed down verbal history for thousands of years is that they were seeded on this planet as the first people ever by Pleiadians. That's their history. They have Pleiadian hieroglyphs there that nobody's been able to decipher anywhere from anybody on the planet Earth. And then you hear, okay, well, Native Americans saying the same thing. Star Brothers brought us here. Earth is like an abandoned seed colony. Then all of a sudden you have these beings that come and make a new home here as well. There's like a breakaway civilization. For the first 250,000 years, they didn't even interact with us. But then they realized they needed slave labor to continue to work, and they decided to genetically modify us and make us do all the work for them. So this is track record of this planet being used as a breakaway civilization. And now we know that, well, our sun is middle-aged, our yellow sun, right? It's 5 billion years it's going bye-bye. But as it approaches that mark, it's going to continue to swell and swell and swell and turn into a red giant. And it's going to swallow up Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars and incinerate us. So we know, long term, we got to get the hell off this planet. We can't make this a permanent planet, right? We can't contain the sun, so we got to go somewhere. So we're going to start experimenting and going out. The thing is, who's in control of these breakaway civilizations? Who makes the decision who's coming and who's not coming? And so, unfortunately, we don't have that power as a civilization. The elite of the elite, the oligarchs, they make those decisions behind the scenes, but they are working on breakaway civilizations constantly.
Well, so much for, I guess it would be modern-day Iraq, right? They say that civilization started in modern-day Iraq. Today, it's called Iraq.
Yeah, back then it was Mesopotamia.
Mesopotamia, but that went out the window.
Yeah.
So when you say light matrix, right, you have a video. I think it's the next tab with the video. It's really cool. When you say we're in a light matrix, what do you mean by light matrix? Because I watched the movie Matrix first time, and I wasn't interested. It kind of wasn't cool to me.
Right.
But then when I started getting into this and simulation and everything else, and I looked at it from a different perspective, I was like, oh, this makes a little too much sense.
Right. Well, scientists at CERN at the LHC, the Large Hadron Collider in Switzerland, they discovered that smashing atoms together creates other smaller particles, but at the same time, they also just realized that all particles are made of light. They were able to verify that through these collisions, and of course, we have wave-particle duality. We've now photographed the waves converting into solid matter. And what is a wave? It's a wave of what? A wave of light. So we know that everything exists as waves of light. And so we know that we're living in a reality that's based on light, or a light matrix. Now, what gets really tricky is wrapping your mind around this. The light that we're experiencing that's creating this matrix is actually a shadow. It's hard to understand a shadow being light, but it is. They discovered now through experiments that they were able to create something called an eighth dimensional quasi-crystal. We've created this in laboratories, a real eighth dimensional crystal. It broadcasts a shadow which creates a fourth dimensional crystal, and that fourth dimensional crystal creates a sphere, which is what they would consider to be a universe. The sphere is a shadow of the higher dimensions. So this matrix is really a light shadow, a light matrix made of a light shadow of a higher eighth dimensional dimension.
But you would still need the light to make the shadow.
The shadow is light.
Shadow is
light. It's hard to wrap your mind around this. The shadow is made of light. We call it, it's hard for us to wrap, because when we see a shadow, like I see my shadow of my hand on the table, we're thinking it's just my hand is blocking light, which creates a shadow, right? But it's not like that. When you get to the subatomic, it's a different way of thinking about things. the shadow, in other words, the angles of light moving through these different dimensions create this sphere, which becomes the expanding universe. They've done this in an actual laboratory experiment. So we know that we're living in a light matrix, which is a shadow of a higher dimension. This is now actual known science. And we're just one of Googles and Googles and Googles of these, of these experiments, or I call them experiments, but of these realities. This reality that we're living in now, and the reason why I say experiment, check this out. We're living in a universe that's based on consumption. Nothing can live unless it consumes something else. I don't care if it's a star. I don't care if it's a person. I don't care if it's an animal. I don't care if it's a plant. Nothing can continue to thrive and progress unless it consumes something. Now you have to say, what kind of sadistic entity would create something like this? Mm-hmm. I would never create a universe where everything has to be consumed, where I've got to literally choke something out so I can live one more day. Think about that for a minute.
Right.
That's a hell of a way to make a universe. I think this is one of, who knows, unlimited number of versions of physics and universes that things can progress. Let's make one that's based on consumption. Let's make one that's based on transition. Let's make, what I'm saying? There could be a universe out there where nothing actually have to consume something, where you and I, we just live to a specific age. Maybe we live to 2,000 or 3,000 years old. And then at a certain point, we transcend into a higher dimension within that same universe, making way and making space for others, right? And nothing actually has to devour or consume anything. It's a transition. Bugs, insects, everything transitions in periods of times into different dimensions and continuously moves up into higher realms and so forth until it's all one energetic field again or something. Then it recycles and starts all over again. There's so many ways to experiment with this light matrix. I'm just randomly giving you one right there, see? We're in one that's based on consumption, which is pretty brutal if you think about it.
This isn't probably the one you want to be in.
It's pretty tough.
But imagine what some of the others could be.
Like they could be worse than this. So it also begs to ask the question, did we choose to be here? Is this the proving ground that we selected for ourselves spiritually to learn and grow? So there's just so many, the questions create more questions, obviously. But I think that this is just one of a type of a universe that exists, and there's others that are based on totally different physics and totally different concepts, and they're all just giant experiments.
Or how we evolve, too. Because if you look at, well, you still need consumption, but I'm just thinking a monk, caveman, and so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. They're not so consumptionist, but they still need consumption to
Well, we have
live.
If we want to be warm, we got to burn something.
Right.
That's consumption.
Right, so either way it's consumption.
Either way,
There's no way around it.
There's no way around it.
So do you think there's 20 of you doing the same thing right now in a different way in a different dimension?
Absolutely.
100%.
100%.
Just as a different
version of myself.
But still you.
Still me, going about things totally. In some places, I'm just a lazy bum laying on the couch, overweight.
Eating chips.
Eating chips, you know what I'm saying?
Not doing math like you are.
Not doing the math. That took a long time. So there's some people aren't traveling the world. There's some versions of myself that don't travel. There's some that are doing even maybe better than I'm doing, becoming more successful. I have a movie coming out about this, actually.
When's that coming out?
It's coming out about 24 months. It's called Quantum Walkers, and it's about the same thing you just said. It's versions of me doing different things in two different universes. I'm only focusing on two, but I can't.
You'll blow people's head off if you do any. More
just the two.
Yeah.
But it's going to be an amazing. It's going to give people an amazing perspective on the nature of reality and what possibly is going on in two different worlds at the same time in two different universes with the same person.
And by the way, your productions aren't cheap.
No.
You watch me go, oh, this is, Hollywood.
Yeah.
That's why I figured 24. I was hoping sooner, but, and Graham Hancock, he had some drawings that he put into color, and right there was Venus. It was real close.
Yeah.
And at first I thought it was a UFO, like a UFO looking thing, but it wasn't. It was Venus.
Oh, yeah.
So there you go again. How that one's dated 200,000 years ago? Mm-hmm. How could that possibly be?
I know.
What, it just fucking, came that close where you could see it in the sky?
Yeah. When you look in, you can see Venus on certain nights, but how do you know what it is? Well, when you look in the Sumerian tablets, all of a sudden you get the answer again. See, these Sumerian tablets, they're incredible.
True. They could have read them because this drawing that was drawn in one of the caves in the Amazon.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it was exact.
The Dogon have come to Earth, for example. They came to Africa and they taught the Dogon tribe all about Venus, Mars, all the planets in our solar system, even star systems that exist out there, Sirius A, B, and C, a trinary star system or the stars orbit each other. They told them that the planet, star number 2, Sirius B, was a dead star, a failed star, ran out of fuel, and they came from a planet that orbited that star to this planet. They told them, they knew all this information. They still know it till this day. And so these cultures have come here over and over again all around the world talking about these other places and giving us education on what's really out there. If you look at the book of Enoch, Enoch was given an appointed day and time when he was taken up into space, and he describes Earth as a giant sphere. He was able to see the Earth from the top side of the clouds, I mean, so that's one of the greatest, alien abductions in history right there in the book of Enoch. So we're talking about the fact that these beings have been coming here for a very long time and engaging mankind for a very, very long time. Venus, if you look in the Sumerian tablets, it's owned by, these people were so elite, they owned planets. Some owned star systems, some owned entire constellations. But Venus was owned by Ishtar, also known as, it translates also into Isis. That was her planet. She owned that planet. Thoth owned Mercury. But he also owned another planet. I forget the name of that other planet that he owned. But it's amazing that these people were given planets. And Lil owns the Epsilon Boötis constellation. Enki owns the Earth. The Earth is named after him. Ki is Earth, and Ea is the beginning, which Earth. So Earth is how we got the name Earth. It came from Sumerian tablets. And so it's like, wow, these people own bodies, space bodies. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy stuff.
And that would be almost rulers of the galaxy, like Michio would say, tier 1 level, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, tier 5, and I think it was at 5.
The Kardashev scale you're talking about.
You can roam the galaxy, and you would get a planet, and you could do it through the string theory, which you had said, and that's funny that you broke it down. And you found code. You found computer code in string theory.
Right.
So if you could explain, I mean, Michio did too, but you're very good at explaining. Could you explain, sorry.
That's fine, good.
String theory and how you found computer code and what that means toward simulation or,
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So the string theory is an incredible theory in quantum physics because as you look deeper and deeper into the nucleus of an atom and you go even beyond the quarks and everything else that's in there, right, you discover that there's microscopic vibrating strings that are literally emanating a vibration, a frequency, which is jingling matter or solidity or this universe into existence moment by moment. And so when we look at cymatics, where we take a Chladni plate and put a speaker underneath it and put some dust or some sand on top and turn on a vibration in that speaker, we start to see the sand or the dust particles create geometric patterns. So that gives us the concept of understanding, wow, as above, so below. And from a scientific standpoint, on the microscopic scale, that's what's literally jingling matter into the third dimension, these microscopic strings. Another thing was the fact that, when it comes to the ether of space and understanding the computer code, that was actually Professor James Gates. I was quoting him. So Professor James Gates, he was a former scientific advisor for Obama. He also was a professor at the University of Maryland. And he is an expert in supersymmetry and quantum theory. And he took a super team. He put together a super team of quantum physicists, and he started tackling the supersymmetry and analyzing what is this soup that we're living in that we call space-time. And as they dug into it, they started recognizing something called Adinkra codes. And these Adinkra codes go back to the Dogon tribe. They have Adinkra codes. They have these patterns that they make on all their clothing and sheets and everything else. Well, these patterns, people thought they were just making some patterns. No. If you take those patterns that look two-dimensional and turn them into three-dimensional structures, they become mathematical codes.
Wow.
Not just any kind of mathematical codes. They become Adinkra codes, which we know now are actual error-correcting codes. What's an error-correcting code? You see this browser here? Error-correcting codes control this browser. Error-correcting codes control the search engine. So we know that the universe itself is running on the same codes that control search engines and web browsers. And that's what we're living in.
And didn't you find that in orbits too? Or orbit or cosmos? You found that somewhere else too?
Well, it's everywhere. That's the entire universe. It's throughout.
I haven't seen anybody write and break down that they found it in. It's cosmos, right?
Yeah, through the entire cosmos. It's through the entire cosmos. It's everywhere. It's literally at every Planck unit in space-time, these error-correcting codes exist, which means that we're living inside of a programmed matrix. In other words, everything that's happening here is based on coding and programming. And the code that controls this light matrix are error correcting codes, aka Dogon, symbols.
So basically, if I'm getting this right too, if we're going to compare, like, let's just life in general, life and death, eventually you die. Everything's already written. Like, doesn't matter. Like, whatever, the 2 seconds from now, I'm saying has happened already, is already programmed.
To a certain extent.
To a certain extent, right? Can it be altered?
Yes.
Throughout that, and how does that happen?
Okay, so we know that now a complete destiny is not set in stone. We know this through several experiments, but we know also through experiments that the human brain is only getting information that's coming from ether up to 7 seconds before it happens. So, in other words, let me put it this way. They put people inside of these rooms, and they put them in front of screens, and they started showing them images on the screen, and they connected their heads to a sensor cap that was connected to a computer. They were trying to map out the human brain's emotions based on imagery. This was the experiment. Something else happened that they got out of this, and it was this. The human brain started transmitting to the computer up to 7 seconds in advance what the next image was going to be before it showed up on the screen. Okay. And they said, wait a minute, what's going on? These images were showing up 10 seconds apart. So what they were trying to just map the brain, but they ended up getting some other data which said, wait a minute, the brain started knowing before the image showed up what's coming. So they replicated this experiment over and over again, and the same thing kept happening. The human brain, up to 7 seconds in advance, was telling the computer, lighting up a part of the region of the brain that it knew horrific image, spiritual image, loving image. It knew.
An apple.
Right. So they were like, wait a minute, this is incredible. So they said, that means we're not living in real time. Now, what it means is the brain is receiving information that's already happened up to 7 seconds in advance before we fully process it and experience it in what we call real time. Real time doesn't exist. Even the time it takes me to look at you, a photon's got to ping off of you, hit my retina, go to the back of my brain, sort it all out, and then project an image of what I think you look like. That takes time. A very fast amount of time, but it takes time, which means by the time I finally see you, you've already moved.
And another example of that would be how we can see in space things that happened a long, long time ago.
Exactly.
So there's no real space and time. What it is the time it takes for the brain to process me looking at you, you looking at me, and so on and so forth.
Right. The time for the photons to hit the brain, and you look into space, you see something 10 light years away. It took 10 years for that light to travel to get to your eye to pre-process. What we're looking at is in the past. We're not seeing what that star looks like at this moment or that planet looks like at this moment. We're seeing what it looked like 10 years ago if it's 10 light years away. So everything, if the sun turned off right now, boop, the sun went off, we'd have 8 minutes of daylight still because the sun is 8 light minutes from Earth. See? So there's just a delay going on. Now, how do you overcome that was the question. When you start to understand how powerful the human brain is and your consciousness is and how you can actually begin to reprogram yourself, you begin to realize one incredible thing. You can get into something called a flow state. You see this with athletes like Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan plays in the flow state. In the flow state, everyone else looks like they're moving slower than you. Because why? He's closer to real-time information. So when Michael Jordan's in the flow state, instead of things happening up to 7 seconds in advance, his brain's processing, he finally sees it, it's more like 2 seconds, 3 seconds. Which is a big difference. Because let's say I'm in a race with Usain Bolt, right? And he's the fastest guy in the world. At the time, he was.
Yeah, we remember him.
Yeah,
we grew up watching him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, imagine I beat Usain Bolt by 4 seconds.
I would want your autograph for more than 10 reasons.
That would be like a light year ahead of finishing like a light. You know what I'm saying? That would be amazing.
Right.
Now imagine you can get information from the ether 4 seconds ahead of everybody else.
It's a game changer.
Yeah.
Game changer. Imagine, but how do you do that? It comes through meditation. It comes through knowledge of self. It comes through going into inner space, not outer space. Understanding the true power that's in you and getting yourself into that flow state, like an athlete gets into that flow state. Everything else slows down. The elite athletes will tell you this. Everything else slows down.
How do you describe then, so a couple of weeks back at some weird thing sometimes. Ever since we have conversations, I feel like stuff happens then. But I was, sleeping, and I had a dream that me and my wife were sitting in the living room, and literally a tornado came up out of nowhere, and it ripped our roof off. No one got hurt, and it ripped the carport off.
Yeah.
I woke up, and I told Millie the story, and she's like, "Oh." That next day, so I wake up that morning, I tell her the story. Our phones go crazy around noon that there's tornado warnings.
Wow.
She's like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah.
And literally a tornado hits in Palm Beach Gardens, probably a mile away from us. And it did damage. No one got hurt or anything like that. But was that me or my something seeing ahead of time, even though it didn't happen in my house? What was that?
You got the information. I remember those tornadoes, by the way.
Yeah.
I remember that when it happened. I was in Boca at the time. So you have to understand that from higher dimensions, the past, present, and future exist all at once. Okay? And so when you are on a specific frequency, or your mind taps into a specific frequency, you can get information from the past, present, or future. You were able to get the information. You got on the same frequency as it. You got the information. You discerned the information, and you spoke about it. It's something that already was happening, because at the time that you perceived it, it had already happened. If you look at a house, and you're on the outside of the house looking into the house, let's say you can see through the roof, and you can see yourself in the house at different ages and stages of your life through different rooms of the house. In this room you're 5, in this room you're 20, in this room you're 15, in this room you're 70. You're seeing all of yourselves and all versions of yourself at once within the same house. That's how it is when you're coming from a higher dimension. Well, we know from science that just came out last year in 2022, and I have been talking about this for over 10 years. People told me I was crazy, that the human brain connects to 11 dimensions because the universe is made of 11 dimensions, and people told me I was crazy. Real scientists scoffed at me, told me I was a psycho, I was a tinfoil hat wearing crazy dude. I'm giving fake information to my people. I got too many people following me to tell them this fake news. And guess what? Now peer-reviewed science taught in university. The brain connects to 11 dimensions, and those higher dimensions are able to perceive and gather information from any range of events, past, present, and future. People who do remote viewing, they prove this. The CIA had remote viewing program. They had a remote viewing program called Project Stargate, where people were taught how to actually send their mind outside of space and time to capture information, intel, basically, from the future, the present, or the past even. Wow. And they did this for a while until the program closed down and reopened as something else. But Major Ed Dames, who's the person who trained me in remote viewing, was the head of that team. And you can look him up, Major Ed Dames. The guy's incredible. He was my teacher. I was taught under him for 2 years. And this guy's absolutely amazing. He can send his mind anywhere, anytime, and gather intel and information on anything. You give him a target. All you need to do is give him a target number. That's it. And so this proves, though, that this is real, that your brain connected to information and data that already existed, already happened, because everything's happening all at once, and you were able to discern it, and you spoke on it. But because we're in the third dimension, we have an arrow of time, this artificial arrow. So the information that you were able to download in this third dimension, we finally caught up to it. And we all do time traveling. So people say to me, what do you do for a living? Sometimes I tell them I create ripples in space-time that alter future realities in the third dimension. They go, what? Well, yeah, what I do is I speak on things that change people's perception of reality, and that creates a wave that ripples out into the future. And at a point in time, they will catch up with that wave, and I will catch up with it too, and things will be different than what they should have been.
Because when you think different, so we're sitting here and you're making me think different,
right?
Especially with that math, with the damn that pyramid. I can't get over that, man.
You're still trying to figure it out.
Not trying to figure it out. It's just, I mean, what I thought, because I would go back. I thought we were in a simulation.
Gotcha.
Right. I thought that there was plenty of intelligence here before us, but now I know.
Yeah.
In my mind. So now my frequency changes now because of you.
Right.
Which then, when that frequency changes because of you, now, I'm not.
All your decisions are changed. All your decisions are changed.
Are changed, correct.
All going future.
And can tap into
different.
more. So now when I think, there's going to be a tornado tomorrow, to me, and I get killed for this too.
Yeah.
And I'll really get killed after this. When somebody says, it was a coincidence that I knew, some crazy stuff like that. No, you didn't.
No.
What's your question, Rob? Because I read this stuff not nonstop. He got into it with Robert Beto and some other guys we had in like this.
Yeah.
So I want to see what he's thinking because you are the best at breaking it down.
I appreciate it.
I just wonder, like, okay, it's a lot here.
But that's like the average viewer that maybe would go to stream, buy the streaming service.
Mm-hmm.
He could ask a question that I already understand
Right.
because I'm so into it and been into it.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna break it down and I'm just gonna go by religion and take religion out, but just from the thought process of religion. There's a God, right?
Yeah.
That's what we in religion you believe. There's a God, and they always say God created everyone in His image and likeness, right? And you're given free will to make your decisions.
Mm-hmm.
So based on everything you're kind of saying is there's the 11 dimensions, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, and we're in this dimension, in the 11th dimension already.
We're in the third dimension.
Well, but a version of us or whatever it is already in another dimension.
Oh, a version of us exists in the third dimension on another universe.
Correct. Okay.
Multiverse.
Okay. So, how do I describe this in my way? Religion, going back to that, we are all created. We're one. So when everything finally goes back to, I know space keeps going. Are we just part of the? We're all just this.
Yeah.
I'm you, you're me. He's
Right.
me. I'm you, you're me. That's the correct way to say that.
Yeah. The ancients, if you go to the the ancient Incans and so forth, they have a saying, "In la kek alakin." That means I am another you, right? It's an ancient Mayan saying as well. In la kek alakin. And so what that means is we're all one. And, one of the things you said is he, him, he. We like to reference God as a gender.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that God has a gender at all. I think that's a delusion that we've been given. That's been forced on us.
Yeah.
He, him, we imagine this sky daddy with a wand flying around granting wishes. Let him win this. Let his team win the NFL game this weekend.
I'd like
because
to
he
meet that
deserves
guy.
it, right. So it just doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Right. And so, but what God is a frequency. What is spirituality? What is consciousness? It's a frequency. And it's our job to tune into that frequency, to realize that frequency is us and we are it, and that we are God. Each of us is God walking in the flesh, experiencing what it's like to be us. Because the same divine spark that created everything in the universe is inside of every atom inside of our own bodies. And our consciousness is coming from that same source as well, which means we've been imbued with spiritual power and that we are God. And some people will take that as you're saying you're God. That's farce. You can't do that. No,
we are though.
we are.
Yeah.
We are. Because if we weren't God, then what the heck are we? If you create something, it's the essence of you, right? When you do a magnificent painting, art painting, that's the essence of your consciousness converted into a drawing on a piece of paper or whatever you painted it on, and so a canvas. And so that painting came out of your mind. It's the essence of you. And so it's part of you and you're part of it. You can't separate the two. When I write a book and you read my book, like my book, Compendium of the Emerald Tab, when you read that book, guess what happens? You take, my thoughts have been transliterated and downloaded onto two-dimensional format. So my thoughts come from a multidimensional platform into a two-dimensional substructure, which we call a book. And then you open that book, it's a book of codes. You scan your eyes over those codes, and those codes upload into your mind. Where'd they originate? They originated from my mind. You just uploaded my consciousness into your consciousness. Now a part of me is inside of you forever. You see, this is how things move around. So for us to say that we're not God walking in the flesh, that means they don't understand. It's not to get offended. It's you don't understand the power of what's happened and how we arrived here.
And when we were talking about atoms, wouldn't that factually prove that?
Absolutely. I mean, and what is a scientist looking through an electron microscope?
Atoms and protons, right?
Yeah, a scientist is a stack of atoms observing itself.
Yeah.
Because we're all atoms.
Is it possible? I'm just asking this. I don't know. Is it possible to have? You hear the word doppelganger, right? Like, oh, it's my doppelganger. Kind of looks like him. And
Yeah.
is it possible to have two of you within the same?
Oh, it's within the same universe?
Yeah.
I think that the person will have different personalities. I mean, we have twins, right? And so we have people that look like other people, but overall, the thought processes, the belief systems, and the coding is all based on how that person grew up and what they were programmed with from the from the time they were born.
Okay.
Even what their parents ate while they were in the gestation period. Well, you were in the gestation period inside of your mother's womb, and there's so many factors that come into play to create different personalities.
Got you.
But there's only so many ways to stack atoms, and that's why a lot of people look like each other.
Hey, Rob, can you pull up the Emerald Tablets book?
Yep.
I don't want to mess up the beginning of the first word because it's so good. And he got, like I said, there's no doubt that they suppressed you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They always do this stuff.
Yeah.
And still got 2,100 reviews.
2,100 reviews.
Ratings.
4.8
all 5
rating.
stars. Yeah, you can't pay enough people to do that.
It's hard to get a 4.8 rating on Amazon with a book with, the amount of copies that were sold, tens of thousands of copies.
And think that that's a very, genre related book. It's not like where anybody would just get it.
Right.
So that's extremely
It's
impressive.
extremely targeted. In ancient civilizations, it's number one and has been in the bestseller top category for 4 years.
4 years.
Yeah, it's sold worldwide.
Give us 3 or 4 tidbits from that.
One of the most
That would
amazing
just be
things I think
shocking.
would
Thank
be the beginning of the book, right? The beginning verses where I'm breaking down how Thoth his father is telling him to go to the land of Chem and follow the mission that ye know of. And the mission is to help bring back civilization to a high level. So he gets into the great ship of the master. Now, anybody will say, oh, he's getting in a ship. He's going to go for a sail. They're going to sail over to this place, to Africa, right? No. The ship rises into the sky until the planet disappears. So in other words, they're in space now. And then they say, we're going to fly until the time appointed where we look down and see the land of Chem. So they see it. They start to descend back to the earth, and they see ancient temples coming up out of the mud. So they know they're in the right place. So this is a ship that flies in the sky. This is 36,000-year-old text talking about flying ships, spaceships.
I was just going to say, I want everybody to know this is not a sci-fi book.
Right.
This is based off the stone pads, right?
This is the stone tablet. So this
Tablets,
is the
yeah.
Emerald Tablets written by Thoth, the Atlantean priest king, who ruled over the land of Chem for 16,000 years, according to the ancient Egyptians, not according to me. And he's rebuilding the land of Chem. But what's amazing is when he lands the ship, he opens the doors, and him and his crew walk out. He says the barbarians come to attack him with cudgels and spears, and he raises his staff, and he sends out a ray of vibration that stops them still as a mountain, like stone in a mountain. He freezes them in place, like he uses a stun gun weapon of some type to stop them from coming to attack. And when I compare this in my book to the active denial system that we have in the military, where we have this beam that we send out a ray of vibration that stops attackers from coming. We can stop rioters from attacking. It can send a beam out that will make them feel like they're in pain, that will freeze them in place, that will make them feel like they have to vomit, that will also make them hear voices in their head or make them feel like they're on fire.
An octopus can do that too.
Incredible.
A sister, like it's like an octopus in the ocean. If you get too close to it and it's uncomfortable, it will freeze your ass. Not freeze you, but I mean, paralyze you.
Incredible. Well, we have that same technology. But I said, wow. So we're talking about a spaceship. We're talking about some type of a stun weapon. Then after he gets these people calmed down, he pulls out these doodads. He pulls out these little trinkets that he's showing them, technology things. He calls it magic science, which translates into advanced technology. Little pieces of things that he have, little technological devices, and the people start groveling at his feet. And he says, no, stop. I'm not a god. I'm Thoth the Atlantean. I'm a son of Atlantis. I'm here to help you. And he begins to teach them and so forth, and he stays there for a very long time. That's one thing. The second thing is he talks about traveling to other planets. Planets that he's gone to himself, not other planets like we potentially will go to, that he's gone to. He says, many of the worlds have I traveled, many of the men on those worlds, rising to the heights and plumbing to the depths, moving in realms of brightness and also sometimes in darkness. He says he's watched civilizations rise and fall on many planets. I'm going, holy crap. Who's writing this stuff that many years ago? Who has time to make up a sci-fi story? I don't believe it's sci-fi. I think it's real. And the third thing would be, he says that deep in the future, an enemy will come from the dark. He's talking about from space. He said, he who's able to raise my spaceship from underneath the Sphinx can conquer them with ease. That's crazy. When I started looking to the Sphinx, they found there's a cavern under there that's about a mile under. and there was this show that was going to air on Discovery Channel in real time, disclosing what they found underneath the Sphinx paw. And it got canceled at the time it was going to start live at 8 p.m. Eastern. It went off air and said, this show has been moved to another date or something else, and it never came back on.
No reason, I'm sure.
No. The guy who produced that ended up in one of my lectures at the Conscious Life Expo in California years later. He says, I'm the guy that produced, because I brought it up. He said, I'm the guy that produced that show. They had already connected a tunnel underneath and gone down there to figure out what was there, and potentially, nobody really knows, but probably has moved that thing out piece by piece. There's just channels underneath the Sphinx. I've been underneath the Sphinx that go on for miles.
Miles?
Miles. There's a tunnel that goes from the Great Pyramid at Giza all the way to the Pyramid of Ur in Iraq.
Wow.
Yeah. Crazy stuff.
Wow.
Jesus.
I mean, that just tells you that how intelligent civilizations were.
Yeah.
So, like the dinosaurs, for an example, right? Do you think they were purposely wiped out?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
no
like,
doubt.
Somebody, like, I always make a joke, because I think so, too.
Yeah.
Like that seed was planted. Nah, these guys are a little bit too crazy. Boom, just whack them out.
Got to make some space for the
cockroaches
civilization.
still live, though.
Listen, yeah.
That was interesting.
You can't get rid of cockroaches. You can't get rid of those suckers. But you have a planet you want to create a breakaway civilization. You have to make space for the people. These things are too dangerous. They're messing up the crops. They're messing up the people. They're killing people. They're too dangerous. Just get rid of them. And so I went to Cambodia. I think it was 2017, and I went to Ta Prohm, where they have this ancient temple, super ancient temple. On this temple, you see hieroglyphs of dinosaurs with the meat on their bones, which means human beings walked with dinosaurs, because we knew what they looked like thousands of years ago. Some of them were still here. It looked like a stegosaurus. So, but they were here. But again, you have to make way for what the breakaway civilization wants. And what do they want? They wanted a humanoid civilization, not this reptilian civilization of dangerous dinosaurs. So they got rid of them.
And is that why a lot of drawings you see that are factual drawings, they always seem to have from however many 100,000 years. When they say 100,000 years, I always add a million to it personally.
You just add.
I really do. I add a million to it at minimum.
Yeah.
They always seem to have a human face with a tail with something reptilian, which goes to David Icke.
Right.
But, why is that? Is that because why is that?
Well, to add credibility to David Icke's.
Oh, yeah. I'm not discrediting him.
Yeah. To add credibility to it, there's this culture called the Ubaid culture, Ubaid. Anybody can look them up. They're in the Smithsonian Museum. They found thousands of statuettes of the Ubaid culture that were left behind. Even the structures that they lived in, they're super ancient, even before the Atlantean Anunnaki people got here. That's how old they are. And guess what they are? They're reptilian people.
Humans mixed with reptilian.
They're bilateral bipedal hominids, which means they look like us, 2 arms, 2 legs. You can split them in half, have 2 equal sides, but their heads were reptilian. They had scales. There's a woman, one of them is a woman breastfeeding a baby. They had loincloths on. Some had a higher stature because you could tell by the way that they had their loincloth were longer. They had staffs representing a type of a monarchy. And so the Ubaid culture is well known, and they were reptilian humanoids that existed and lived on this planet for probably thousands of years.
And now, do you think, like, that was another seed that got thrown here and planted just to make simplified, and it just wasn't what the hierarchy wanted?
It's possible. It's quite possible that they were seated here. It's possible that they themselves found this planet and created a breakaway civilization here as well.
True.
They were here first, and they died out, or maybe even they moved. We just don't know.
Just like we're trying to colonize Mars.
Right, exactly.
Do you think that's even possible?
Yeah, it's possible.
But not the way that they're trying to do it, like we talked about earlier.
Yeah, I think there's an infrastructure. See, Mars, all the science data has come out, which I've produced all the science data now from the REMS unit there that's on Mars. The barometric pressure is different than what they said. All of a sudden, there's real good barometric pressure. The soil is good for growing crops now.
Really?
Matter of fact, the science came out. They said the soil there is better for growing crops than on Earth. How would they know that?
But they want to say that there's no soil there, that we'd have to bring it there.
No.
So what all is really on Mars?
Oxygen.
Fuck it, really?
There's atmosphere, clouds, rain, wind. It's a fully functional. They've also now documented, NASA has come forward now. They found billions of tons of liquid water.
Liquid water.
Liquid water. They just announced a 12-hectare lake that they discovered just about a year and a half ago. Before that, in a press release in the afternoon, they showed water coming down the side of a mountain face on on the news. They've made it public. You know why they've done that? Because they want people to know, like, yeah, we're going here, and this is why, and we need more funding. But they're going to continue to build that breakaway.
Oh, they're showing bits and pieces of nothing just to get the dough.
Get the dough.
Now, could you or I be there right now, or would we be fried, dead, frozen,
we'd be
radiated?
fine.
Really?
They found out initially. They said no magnetic field to repel cosmic radiation. False. Now they come back with new data saying yes. Oh, there is a magnetic field, but also because the Mars rotation on its axis, which is about the same hours as the Earth day, its movement through space and its rotation on its axis creates something called bow shock. Bow shock repels the radiation and pushes it around the outside of the planet. Very few deadly particles make it to the surface. So if you exist in the what we would call sea level area, you'd be fine. You wouldn't have any DNA damage. You probably wouldn't want to. Wouldn't want to go higher than 500 to 1,000 feet above what we would call sea level. And also, you would probably need an acclimation period and acclimation mask. You probably wouldn't need a full spacesuit, but you would need something to help you acclimate to a very thin atmosphere because it is very thin. But the monks survive at 14,000 square feet in Tibet with no problem.
Mm-hmm.
So it would just be a matter of the body adjusting.
Yes.
Right?
Exactly.
And I think this leads into all this. Can you explain the pineal gland and how it opens and closes and what that does?
Yeah. Well, the pineal gland is incredible because it's inside, deep inside the human brain. It's called the third eye. A lot of representations will put it right in front of the head above the two eyes.
Yeah, so you guys tattoos that.
Yeah, just a representation.
Yeah,
right?
but they got no idea what it really is.
No, yeah.
They think it's for their women.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I got 3 eyes, baby.
Yeah. But if you look at a lot of the ancient Egyptian culture, for example, you see this eye, right? The eye of Horus, it's called, or the eye of Ra. And some people think it's an all-seeing eye or something like that. It's not even close. It represents a cross-cut section of the human brain. If you take the human brain and you slice it in half and open up the hemispheres and look at it this way, you're going to see that same imprint of that eye. And it's the location in that eye of the pineal gland. And we're talking about the pineal gland, the third eye. Scientists now recognize that it's our spiritual antenna. It's made of crystals. So this pineal gland is made of crystals, which is pretty incredible.
In our head.
In our head.
Wow.
And it releases DMT into the body. So you don't have to go get an ayahuasca. You don't have to go to the jungles of Peru and have somebody give you some frog medicine and all this kind of stuff. You can get access to it from your own mind through breathwork meditation. Specific breathing techniques that help release the DMT into your body. You can have the same out-of-body psychedelic experience in your own house, in the safety of your own room, with your own DMT coming from your own body. And what's interesting is when you put pressure on crystals, they spark. So if you ever had a lighter, when you flick that lighter, that's not a piece of flint that's igniting the fumes from the gas. It's actually a crystal in there. There's a tiny crystal in all lighters. When you flick it, it puts pressure on the crystal, which makes a spark. The same thing happens inside of your head. When you learn the breathing technique to put pressure on the pineal gland inside the brain, it sparks. People have Kundalini awakenings and all these other amazing things that happen when they learn how to put the pressure on their pineal gland. Also, it can be calcified through, drinking fluoridated water, all the toxins that we're taking in, processed foods and everything else. It's one of the easiest tissues in the body to become calcified, according to the biological medicine studies, online. You can go to any website that talks, I think it's NHS, they talk about the body and all the scientific studies are there. They say that it's one of the easiest, parts of the body to become calcified. To decalcify it, you got to eat clean, drink unfluoridated water. Don't use fluoride at all if you can. Don't eat processed foods. You got to, you got to take care of yourself, and you can get it, undecalcified. Deep meditations, breathwork meditations help to activate it. And it really can help you connect to higher dimensions. It's the eye that processes light, even though it's not an eyeball. It literally responds to light under scientific studies. And it can help you reach higher realms and higher levels of understanding.
And is that why so many people that have smoked it or used it, they come back a different person? Yeah. They break through. Maybe not the first time or the second time, but they come back with a totally different attitude. I've literally witnessed it myself. I've seen a guy that was kind of a bum, and he was a bum, and did it and had a look at himself, and he grew a company to, nothing crazy, but very good for him. He just came back. He got rid of. He got rid of all his friends. His friends were just like down, bringing him down. And all of a sudden, he's like this quiet dude. I'm like, all right, bro, and it did that. So when you do that, it's kind of a breakthrough.
It's a breakthrough. A lot of people use the ayahuasca and these plant medicines to have these breakthroughs because it's been known scientifically to rewire the brain, usually for the better. What's happened recently is people have begun to abuse the plant medicines and these other things like frog medicine and so forth, and they're becoming addicted to them, and too much of anything is no good. So now they have to rely on that solely just to even function, and they're also gone completely bananas crazy. But but for people who have taken it with the respect and dignity it deserves, it has helped change their lives mostly for the better.
And what's the difference between the frog DMT like Mike Tyson takes, which has changed him?
Right.
I mean, unless he doesn't take it, then
it's
he's back
combo,
to
I believe, or something like
Yeah.
that. They take the frog poison.
It's the tail, right?
Yeah, and they somehow they inject it into you, and it has the same effect as like DMT. There's all different ways. I think there's DMT. There's ayahuasca. There's this combo frog medicine. There's even one more other plant medicine you can take. The mushrooms, right?
But does that give the effect of DMT?
I'm not sure. I just know that people have these similar experiences throughout the range of them. I personally have never taken any plant medicine or any kind of frog poison or whatever, just because I like the way my brain works. I know that it will rewire your brain, and since I like the way my brain works, I like my recall capability and my memory the way it's functioning now. I just don't want to risk changing that. I know I can do a breathwork meditation, and I can have similar experiences, which I've already done. So there's no need for me to go experiment with these outside things.
You're already on that level that somebody would use DMT
to
get to
his brain.
Yeah, like you're already there.
Yeah.
So what the hell is the point?
Yeah.
But what's odd is that we know that DMT was active in the brain.
Yeah.
Years ago. I believe or always thought that it was because for one of two reasons. One, so man had the guts to go after a lion or bear. And two, so that lion or bear or whatever it was trying to kill didn't smell the pheromone of fear, right? Because then you're a dead man right there. So then the lion or bear is just as afraid of you as but you're not afraid,
right?
So and they can sense that. That's one question. And then two, to hit you with, that they found DMT recently in the kidneys, the liver, throughout the body. Before they thought it was just in the brain,
right?
So then when you die from this thing that we're in, that's the last thing's released.
Yep.
Where the hell does it go?
It's released, and it just helps shove you, send you off into the next dimension. It just takes you into that psychedelic realm, that multidimensional realm, and pushes you right along or out. It's a release mechanism to help you escape this third dimensional. Because the third dimension kind of locks you in, it kind of holds you here, and that just helps release you and lets you, pass right through.
So break down for me in simple terms, if you don't mind. When this life's over, say at 92 I croak, or you have something you can send me to, 100, right? Okay. Whatever. Hopefully it's easy, whatever.
Yeah.
My eyes closed, it's over. What happens? The Matrix is over. What happens?
Well, the first thing that happens is there's a few mechanisms built into the human avatar body that holds your spirit in the body temporally, in other words, on time. And that's your neural correlates of consciousness. Those are 3 giant neurons that wrap around the inside of the skull, which look like a crown of thorns. Sounds familiar? Okay.
Yeah, you mentioned that a couple times.
Right. Then you have your neocortex, Neo from the Matrix.
Isn't that fucking crazy?
Right. And then you have your magnetite crystals that are in your brain. You have billions of them in your brain. Those 3 things together work in collaboration to hold your spirit inside of this body. When you die, those things obviously release that. The DMT then pushes you out. You transcend into higher dimensions. Your spiritual energy leaves, right? And you connect back to source. I think there's a time period that people talk about in these near-death experiences where they're still kind of here, kind of waiting for that final, okay, I'm out of here, decision that's been made. And then they pass on or they reconnect to that higher energy. And at that point, some of the ancients say that you wake up to who you really are. So this is, they call this, like the Aboriginals call this sleepy time or dream world. Like this isn't even real. Same thing as a holographic universe, right, or matrix. And that when you then can reconnect to source, you then wake up to who you really are. And then at that point, Thoth talks about the Emerald Tablets, where the average person will come back again in any way, shape, or form the energy can transform, not just as another person, not just on the same timeline, but anywhere in the universe as anything, anywhere that uses energy.
To reincarnate it, basically.
Reincarnation. He says that when you become an ascended master of the knowledge, you can actually incarnate at will. But he also says on and in the plane you desire. Plane means dimension. He's talking about he has the capability to come back when he wants, how he wants, and even on what dimension he wants to come back on. So he's become a master at it. So there's this whole process of growth that goes along with becoming an ascended master. But a lot of people just recycle over and over again. Some people are here on this planet that could be 60, 70 years old, and they're newborn babies in the spiritual realm. And some people could be 10, 15 years old. They could be super ancient people, have been here already thousands of times. So an old lady could be a brand new born baby. So if I hear a person talking about Jesus and he and him, and they believe in all these archaic concepts and constructs that exist in the Matrix, I realize that this is probably their first or second or third time here. They're brand new born babies spiritually. I don't get angry at them anymore. Now I just see them as children. The lady could be 70. I see her as a child. She's a baby. I can see a kid that's an indigo child that's got the wisdom of the ages inside of him. I see him as an ancient wizard. So I'm able to distinguish between the two.
And let me guess, you've been able to do the math on this to prove this, right? Let me just take a wild guess over here, right?
I dabble a little bit here.
Yeah, he dabbles a little bit. And then source would be, so say planet, just for an example, just to make it easy. Say planet J is where this all comes from, and we followed the right grid, whatever Jay wanted us to, me and you to do, we did.
Yeah.
We would then wake up on base and figure out who we really are.
Yeah.
Whether we're, tin, metal, whatever, but we go back to where we really are, and life not in a dimension.
Yeah. Correct.
Right? That's what you mean.
It's in a dimension, but it's just not this.
Simulation. I'm sorry.
You're not in simulation. Yeah.
You're not in a simulation anymore, but then might get shot back out to another one to do A, B, C, D, E.
Yeah. Go collect more data.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
And then I don't mean to keep drilling you. And then your book, go to the woke book. Because, whenever, and I think this is important, especially now, because when you hear a woke, you go, oh shit, here we go again. What is it now? More letters? You know what I mean? But this is actually not that.
No, it's not. They hijacked the name woke. Woke was
is
an old slang term that was been out long before the letter situation happened. And so now they've hijacked the term woke now. But so I wrote the book Woke Doesn't Mean Broke a few years ago. And it's a book about financial literacy. It's 688 pages. It's about this thick. It's a massive book. And it's a financial reference guide. But I combine spirituality with financial concepts. So you can see that the two actually go hand in hand. There's this whole thing in the spiritual community where if you're conscious and you're trying to uplift and help humanity, and you're trying to be, a spiritual or thought leader, you shouldn't be able to have nice things. Oh, you shouldn't be. You shouldn't have nice clothes. How dare you have a nice car and a nice house? How dare you can afford to travel? Or how dare you can go on vacation?
God forbid.
Yeah, right. So my thing was, wait a minute. If I'm teaching you the power of your mind and how you can manifest, and I can't pay my light bill, my car's getting repossessed, and I'm walking around with holes in my shoes, what kind of thought leader are you following? Like, I'm going to show and prove. I'm going to show you the proof is in the pudding, and I'm going to teach you through my own efforts and actions what I'm able to accomplish, and you can do what I'm doing and even greater than me. And so I decided to write this book because the biggest problem we have in America right now is financial literacy. It's a massive problem on all levels of income. I don't care who you are. The average person knows diddly squat about the financial matrix that we're living in, and it is a matrix. And you see, the way that the system is set up, people have the idea or concept in their brains that, oh, this is how it is and we got to live with it. No, you see, the people who wrote those laws and rules, they left breadcrumbs and they left little I call them Easter eggs in there, shortcuts. Trump knows the shortcuts. I mean, he doesn't pay taxes. And they said, how dare you not pay taxes? Well, I'm just going by the laws you guys wrote. I know what the Easter eggs are.
He did. He said, you wrote them.
You wrote them, man. I mean, I'm just following the law. And so, but all the matrix works like that in the financial area. You just need to know how to navigate it. So this book helps people navigate through it. It teaches them about things they never thought about before, concepts and financial concepts and information about different financial things that we need to know and utilize in our lives. And so that's why I put the book out, because I think people needed to know, like, hey, it's not okay to be broke. It's not okay. Right now we're in a capitalistic society.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it is. It's not going to change tomorrow. So while you're in it and you're living in it now, you might as well learn how to navigate it the right way. Don't pretend like it doesn't exist, because that ain't going to work either. Because I tell you what, you'll be sleeping under a tree, all right? And so will your kids. So at the same time that we're learning all this spiritual concept and knowledge and wisdom and understanding, we got to pay our bills too. And it ain't okay to be broke. It ain't okay to be suffering, struggling. It's not okay to be worrying about where your next meal comes from, or your lights get cut off in the winter and your kids are freezing in a bed. It ain't okay. And that's what this book is about.
And I think this is why I really wanted to bring this up, because nowadays, as you know, and he's got older kids. I just have a little one. Everybody gets a trophy. Everybody gets that award. You're broke. It's okay. It will be okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's not okay.
Yeah.
And that's an important thing coming from a guy like yourself,
Mm-hmm.
who you go, wow, he did all this math. Yeah, but also this too, because maybe you can't get into the Billy Club.
Yeah.
Not the one that they beat you with.
Yeah, not that one.
But you could take this book here
Yeah.
and read it. And, you have every Tom, Dick, and Harry coming out with a self-help book, and I know this, and I know that, but they don't have the background really to back it.
Yeah, I lived this. This is my
Let
my
alone the
financial
damn
life story.
Yeah.
You see, this is why I went through all this stuff, and I went through a lot of ups and downs to learn that knowledge and put it out into a book. This ain't ChatGPT,
Yeah. Yeah.
Anybody can write a book now, but it's just there's no spiritual or mental connection to the context. It's just people
Putting the same
cutting
thing
and pasting.
over. Cutting and pasting, right, and rewording it. And then go to become a member right there. There you go. You got a couple of spots left on this, right?
Yeah, I got a couple of spots. I have a huge mentoring program. It's called the Billy Club. It's only 40 people max. There's about 3 positions left.
That's good, though.
Yeah, because we need a lot of attention. People need a lot of attention in this Billy Club. I'm really spending a lot of quality time analyzing business models, analyzing their finances, analyzing their projections, breaking down their how they're running their company and what their plans are, and then connecting them to all of my connections that I have to help take them to the next level, restructure, reorganize, recreate, even break down the whole thing and rebuild it from scratch if I think it's not going to work. And I'm helping people go from $1,000 status to $1 million status, from $1 million status to $1 billion status, based on my life experiences and the connections and the people that I know as well. And so that's my private mentoring program, the Billy Club.
And if you can't get in there, then get the book and get the streaming, because, again, you did something. You got the record done. You got your own streaming service where you're not broke and walking with holes in your shoes. You got Louboutin, really cool ones. And, you're doing multiple things.
Yeah.
So go back to the streaming service.
And we're going to be going public soon as well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Scroll to the top, Rob. You're going to go public?
Yeah.
Oh,
we've already had 2 raises. We did a Reg CF twice, and then right now we just got approved by FINRA for a Reg A+, and so we're going to launch that. That'll allow us to raise up to $20 million, and in the process of up to that $20 million, we're going to uplist to NASDAQ. Probably end of the year, beginning of next year, we'll uplist to NASDAQ.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Thank
Last 2 things, and I'll stop holding you hostage. What you're doing down here in Fort Lauderdale, you're working on propulsion.
Yeah.
You're working on zero energy.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about a little bit about that and where you're at with that? Because that could be a game changer.
Yeah. Got slowed down a little bit from this,
if you don't have those people behind, or not those people, if you don't have the government involved.
I have a secret way to get this stuff out. Well, not a secret. It's a way to get it out. A lot of scientists now are releasing their technologies, just DIY, releasing the blueprint, giving away the blueprint, the API, putting it out there. And so we have First Class Space Agency is the company. It's been around for a few years now, right?
Congratulations.
Thank you. And so we're not launching vehicles into space, but we are working on projects, research and development of different types of propulsion systems. One of them is a ferrofluid vortex engine, which uses pressurized mercury in the torus, and you electrify it. You get anti-gravity properties that way. Another one is, matter of fact, there's a new documentary I'm going to be in, and I'm talking about that. Another one is our zero-point energy devices, tapping into the vector equilibrium, tapping into the natural ambient energy that exists all around us, even picking up remnant electromagnetic waves from like cell phones and the TV that's already in the room and collecting it and then making a energy source for charging devices. We're working on that, and also I invented a new type of a AGM battery, which is completely sealed. It can be mounted in any position. It can power a small house for about a week versus a regular AGM is probably only going to give you 5 hours of power max. It can recharge. It can trickle charge by solar. It can also rapid charge as well. And you can create a bank of them, which can power even a mansion if you wanted to. So,
and that's just where you're at now.
Yeah. So we've got a lot of cool stuff that we're working on. All things that can be used for space travel, but also that can help and benefit humanity right here on this planet.
And last thing, what do you see happening over the next 3 years here in this little simulation disaster that we're in? Do you think we're going to blow ourselves up? Do you think we're just going to destroy ourselves with the quantum computer coming? I mean, I think, people are worried about the metaverse and AI.
No.
They better start thinking about that quantum computer.
Quantum computer and the AI. I think we have a situation, we'll reach a breaking point, though, because what will happen is the AI and the quantum computing is going to replace a lot of jobs, thousands of jobs. The problem with that is your jobs are being replaced, great, but the people that jobs got replaced still have bills. So we have a situation here.
Depopulate people, then.
I think that at some point, I really do believe that we're going to wake up as a mass group of people of civilization and say, wait a minute, you're going to take away our jobs and still give us the debt? No, we're not going for it anymore. We're going to stop playing the game now. We're going to unplug from you, and now you're going to have to negotiate with us. I think the biggest revolution is going to be a revolution of not continuing to play the game. Mm-hmm. When a massive amount of people, it won't take many. There's 8 billion people. If only 20 million people stop playing the game, just in the United States alone, there's 190 million adult Americans here, 390 million total Americans. But if out of 190 million, if 20 million just stop playing the game, just that small number, it'll have a huge impact on the economy. And more people, again, will then begin to get confidence to say, you know what, I'm going to stop playing too. And that number will grow. And when we stop playing their game and we unplug from their system, then they have to negotiate a new economy with us. And I think that AI, eventually, and the quantum computing will replace the labor of mankind, and mankind's bills will also be replaced. In other words, if you look at Star Trek, for example, they don't have a monetary system. They don't have an economy. Everybody works because it's their passion. They're passionate about what they do. They want to work. They want to be a part of something. And people who don't want to work in Star Trek and that civilization, that Hollywood civilization, they're free to travel and experience life and do arts and crafts and learn about other cultures and so forth. I think ultimately that's where we'll get to, but we'll see within the next 3 to 10 years how much will people take? How much will they continue to take this abuse from the elites? And when will we finally say, you know what, let's just join together and stop? We proved that we could stop when the global thing happened and the global sickness shut down the whole planet. And guess what? We're all still alive.
Yeah.
If we all come together and say, we're going to do the same thing they did to us, we're going to shut down them by us shutting down. We're going to unplug for a few weeks and just see what happens. And when we do that, the whole world's going to change.
And this isn't a joke. I think, like, when I always say, I think a catastrophic thing will have to happen. Mm-hmm. Wait until 20 million people can't pay their phone bill.
Ooh.
Okay?
Yeah.
Now, me, I don't care.
Right.
You we'll be all right.
We'll be fine.
I'm straight.
Yeah.
But 5 billion... that's not going to be cool. No. Now you have no phone, you can't message anymore, you can't do nothing. And I think that, I'm not joking, I'm dead serious. I think that would be a catastrophic enough event when they keep upping the prices and all this BS. Now you can't pay your phone bill.
Yeah.
Now you got no internet.
People are going to go crazy.
They're going to go crazy. And then those that hated each other, they come together. And that's
say, hey, man, we're going to take them down by unplugging from them. We're going to show them. We just don't show up to work. We're not going to pay the mortgage payments. We're not paying the car payments. We're not going to send any money anywhere. We've saved up some gas and we've got some food. We're not even going to go shopping for a few weeks. Let's just see what happens.
Yep.
That's all it takes.
And it will happen once that phone bill doesn't get paid, I think.
Yeah.
Go to Eventbrite and the awards so people can buy. I'm going to go to the award thing.
No, thank you.
And Eventbrite, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's nothing, 150. So you got that. And then go to the award. That's awesome. I'm so happy that you're doing that there. And that's why you got all kinds of stuff on there too. Your YouTube. I'll have everything in the description.
Right,
I'll
perfect.
push
Thank
everything
you.
I can,
Appreciate it.
especially your streaming TV. So again,
Yeah.
somebody wants to do a trial on the streaming TV,
Just go to 4bk.tv on the web, or go to Samsung TV apps, go to Roku apps, go to Apple TV apps, iOS apps, Google Play apps, and you can just get the app, the Forbidden Knowledge TV app with the number 4, Forbidden Knowledge TV app, and install it. Get a 7-day free trial, and binge watch as much as you can. If you like it, just keep it.
You made it about 6 letters total. That's so great, man. You got anything? Any question, Ron?
That's awesome, man.
You sure you're all right?
Blew my mind there a little bit. Yeah, it's good though. Good stuff.
All right, thank you, man. I really appreciate your
Hey,
time.
thank you,
Hey,
brother.
an honor.
Appreciate you.
I hope you come back again.
I'll definitely come back. For
Awesome.
Sure. Yeah.
Thank you so much. This podcast is brought to you by Monster Energy. Tear into a can of the meanest energy drink on the planet, Monster Energy. It's the ideal combo of the right ingredients in the right proportion to deliver a big bad buzz that only Monster can. Monster packs a powerful punch, has a smooth, easy drinking flavor. Athletes, musicians, co-eds, road warriors, metalheads, geeks, hipsters, and bikers dig it. You will too. Monster Energy is more than just the green OG. Monster has Monster Ultra, Juice Monster, Monster Hydro, Rehab Monster, Dragon Tea, Monster Max, Muscle Monster, and many more. Buy on Amazon, buy on Walmart, or go to monsterenergy.com and believe me, you'll find a place. Unleash the beast. Monster Energy. This episode is sponsored by Aurora. Do you know what the fastest growing crime in America is? For years, this crime rate has been surging and affecting millions of Americans. I'm talking about identity theft, and there's a new victim every 14 seconds. Yet despite this, those who have had their identity stolen are often shocked when it happens. That's why I'm excited to partner with Aurora, who is sponsoring this video. Aurora is identity theft protection, fraud monitoring, a VPN, password management, and antivirus software all into one easy-to-use app. Their VPN allows you to stay anonymous online by keeping your browsing history and personal information safe and encrypted. Protect you and your family from America's fastest growing crime. Try Aurora for free for 2 weeks and see if you or anyone in your family's personal information has been compromised. Start your free trial today. Go to aurora.com/MSCS. The link is in the description below.